What did you say?
Yo, listen, your help.
Yeah, what's going on?
All right.
So
What's up?
today I got my wisdom teeth taken out, man. So have you have any experience on that before?
Nope. Hopefully, I never will.
Oh, why not? You scared?
Yeah, I don't like the dentist at all.
Mm,
At all.
All right, cool. All right, can you guys hear? Can everybody hear each other?
yes.
Yeah.
All right, dope. All right, cool. All right, man. All right, man. Let me go ahead and kick it off then. Yeah. So I, I wanted to talk about some shit, man. I figured, we could have a discussion about it. I've been hearing, and I know you guys have heard the same shit too. But you always hear people say that PlayStation's games, right? They they're all just graphics, pretty much, is what you hear people say, right? They don't have any gameplay. They're all walking simulators. It's there's no like real depth to the gameplay. There's no really intricate mechanics or anything like that, right? It's all just graphics and it's all walking simulator type shit, right? And you hear that all the time, man. And you've been hearing that, I'd say, for the last few years, ever since the generation started, man. You've been hearing a lot of that bullshit, right? Now, I am here to debunk all that bullshit. Pretty much is what I'm here for, and I wanted to get you guys' take on it as well. But yeah, I think PlayStation and Sony specifically with their games, man, they have a lot of mechanics that people don't want to give them credit for. Pretty much, you know what I mean? They have like pretty in-depth gameplay elements that it's funny because you see a lot of these elements in other games that people like to give them credit for, but they don't do that for Sony games, which is the funny part. But we're gonna get into all of that shit, man. All of the little like intricate details, man, because I kind of want to go into detail about like some of these games that kind of been in the headlines recently. That people just will like no matter what will not give credit. They just will not give credit where credit is due, you know. But anyway, so I had a list of games here, man, that I wanted to talk about. Um, that being the one that I'm the most interested in talking about is God of War, and I want to talk about Horizon. I know Josh Illicit here, he likes to talk a lot about Horizon. There's a lot of stuff in that game too, and I wanted to touch on Returnal and a couple other games that a lot of people were talking about as well. But yeah, before I even get into any of that stuff, man, you guys have anything you want to say about what I'm saying here? Like, am I off? You know, am I creating this all in my mind, or you know, am I
No,
delusional?
no, I totally agree with you saying, but if you can't hear me, then just try your best to bear with me because recently there was a news where the DualSense controller will be getting
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
a
Is this about what we talked about?
no, listen. The DualSense will get a feature where you can actually feel the temperature of whatever game you're playing that's going on in that present. So like when you mentioned God of War, right? And how PlayStations are getting slept on their mechanics. It's like people are sleeping on the fact how dope the DualSense Edge and how dope the accessibilities that's coming from Sony. So I truly agree with what you were saying. Like Sony is about graphics and all of that, but they don't get the credit of the hardware they put behind the scenes.
Yeah, I don't. You know what, man? I don't see a lot of people. Like I said, man, a lot of people they try to make it seem like right. Sony's games, right? Because they hit like all of these like technological milestones and stuff like that, right? That they just it's almost like they forgot the gameplay. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
People keep try- people keep trying to make arguments like that, like, yo, you know, I mean, okay, cool, it's a pretty game, it looks nice or whatever. You could pan your camera around and it's pretty, but there's no actual gameplay. It's a walking simulator or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like whatever nonsense people like to come up with for Sony's games. And that's the funny thing, man. I know exactly what you're talking about too, because that whole thing with the patent was floating around with the heat and shit like that. I think that's cool, man. And that's another thing too, because they have a lot of things where they kind of like implement like different types of experiences in their hardware, in their games and stuff like that you just can't get anywhere else. That as well don't get credit like it deserves. But it's funny because even recently, right, with the Horizon Burning Shores, the new gameplay that just came out for that, and when they were showing all the dinosaurs and the new machine and stuff like that, right? People thought that was like legit. Looking through the comments and stuff, I'm like, yo, there's no way that people could literally believe that this is CGI. Like they either have to be joking or they just whatever. You know what I'm saying? But I think a lot of people really thought that Horizon Burning Shores looked like a CGI trailer, man.
Can you define me? Can you define me what CGI is? Because it just came new to me when I just read off Twitter. Like, and that's the thing. Like, how I just don't believe in what the internet likes to, bring upon towards whatever.
So what are you asking? Like, what is a CGI?
Yes. Yes.
Well, I believe it stands for computer generated image. I mean, when people use CGI, they're basically like saying it in of like, it's not gameplay. You know what I mean? Like it be rendered a scene or whatever the case, right? That you can't really interact with, essentially. And a lot of times when people say CGI, it's like usually the CGI looks better than the actual gameplay. But that's the thing, man. Like when you look at games like Horizon, right? Horizon Burning Shores, the game looks so good, right? That's the thing. The game looks so good that people think that it's CGI.
Can you define me? Can you define me what you mean by walking simulator? Because it's the first time I even heard that.
Well, okay. I'll give you the connotative version. Because like I don't believe that any of these games are really walking simulators, but from what other people like to basically a lot of people when they say walking simulator is basically like it's mostly cutscenes or some kind of narrative, right? And then when you actually do get into the gameplay, right, you get forced into like doing a lot of walking, so on and so forth, and then you might have like a few minutes of gameplay sequences, and then it goes back to a narrative cutscene or something like that, right? So basically, it's like the ratio of narrative to gameplay is more narrative than gameplay, essentially. It is what a lot of people try to make it out to be. And they say that a lot for Sony's game specifically. It's funny because even that description, right? There are a lot of games that follow that same description that a lot of people just won't give that same type of energy to, which is funny. Like I don't understand like what it is that kind of like draws people to, Sony's game specifically, where it's like, oh, you're what too many cutscenes or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And then you only have a few minutes of gameplay, and then you're walking half the time, and whatever the case, you know what I mean? But a lot of other games followed like similar type of gameplay flows, but they don't get that.
But don't you think that's what consumers like, cutscenes, especially if you're a Sony consumer?
You what? I didn't hear what you said. I'm sorry.
Don't you think that's what Sony consumer like when it comes to cutscenes? I mean, it gives you a good story of what's going on throughout the game. We could go with Last of Us, God of War, Horizon, and Spider-Man, Ratchet and Clank.
I would say that when it comes to the PlayStation community, obviously there are a lot of people who like a lot of different things. I'm not going to make a blanketed statement, that everybody likes cinematic narrative style games or whatever the case, right? But it tends to be that we do see a lot of games, especially from Sony, right? Recently, within the last decade or so, right? A lot of the games that have done very well have been narrative-based games. And that could be for a lot of different reasons, man. I mean, it's kind of hard to say for sure. But um but yeah, it seems that a lot of those type of games definitely get a lot more attention than I would say, some of the other ones. To answer your question on that one. But yeah, anyway, man, like I was saying before, Horizon, right? Because I was talking about Burning Shores. Horizon looks so good, right? That a lot of people thought that it was CGI. And I really did not, I couldn't believe that there were so many people that could literally think that what they saw was not gameplay, right? And it's almost to the degree, right, where you believe that, some of these people might not have ever even played a Horizon game, because if you've played Horizon, right? Even the first one, because the first one still looks great, man. Even to this day, it still looks really good. It looks better than like 60% of the other games that are out in the industry right now, And Horizon Forbidden West looks better than anything that I've seen as far as I could tell, But anybody who's played a Horizon game, right, they know that the game is a beautiful game. I mean, absolutely stunning from a graphical standpoint, So when people say that as CGI, it's almost like, yo, have you even played a Horizon game? You know what I'm saying? Because like that's really what the game looks like. It's not like a CG. It's not like they're trying to trick you. You know what I'm saying?
Well, because they haven't played the Horizon game. That's the thing. So I want to jump in here and say, my little pieces here. I'm just making a wall. What do you call it? A thumbnail for my shit. I was just listening to you guys just kind of chat. So here's the thing, right? To organize everything, clear this out. All right, cool. The main thing that me and Ken was kind of discussing offline was the whole style over substance about what PlayStation is doing. You know what I mean? People tend to not give PlayStation any fucking credit at all when it comes to their games. And other games continually get away with the most simplistic of games. People can find a billion different ways of playing Mario Sunshine or Mario 64 or Breath of the Wild or all this other shit, right? When it comes to Sony games, they seem to just want to be in it for the story or graphics. They play it once, but it becomes this one and done game, unfortunately, which is kind of like strange to me. And I guess what game do you want to talk about first, Ken?
Hey, listen. Oh, my bad to disturb the pro, but listen, I like how you made that point where you mentioned how people like to say PlayStation games are one and done. But you know what's so funny about that? I was reading a tweet where this guy said this. The only way is a one and done game when it's on PlayStation, but when it gets diverse to other platform, oh damn, it's so glorious, it's so beautiful. Oh man, I love this game to death. Because
it's fun.
Because Horizon Forbidden West was a fucking good game. It really was.
It's funny, man. Because I was seeing people talk about Star Wars Jedi Survivor, right? And I think the game looks fun, man. I love the first one, and I can't wait to play it, right? But there was a lot of people, man, who were basically, talking about how hyped they were for the game, right? Just like any other game, Star Wars Jedi Survivor is a very linear, from the looks of it, looks like a very linear style game, but you don't hear. We talked about this before, and like the whole thing about, Sony's game specifically getting a lot more criticism than other games, and so forth, and a lot of different things. But yeah, people don't seem to hold that same energy, man, when it works across the board. But
and I guess that's one of the things that why I go so gun ho over PlayStation games. It's frustrating to me, the fact that people can sit there and question me as to why I can continue to play Horizon Forbidden West or Horizon Zero Dawn or Gravity Rush even over and over again. You know, it's like I'm a weirdo for doing this. It's the strangest fucking thing. I'm weird for playing the game and enjoying it. You know what I mean? But for everybody else, that ain't the case. They can sit there and they can play Demon Souls repeatedly, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. Devil May Cry 4, 5, 6 times over and over again. Have their favorite little cutscenes and all the other shit that they can do. Like you like The Last of Us, right? And there's favorite cutscenes that you have and you played the game multiple times. And most people just played The Last of Us once and was done with it. You know what I mean? And Sony I don't know what causes people to really believe that Sony is just not capable of making a deep game, just as deep as any other, Ubisoft game or Bethesda game or any other fucking game. Some of the mechanics are like really, really deep, and no one paid attention. So I'm going to ask you, Ken, what game did you want to discuss first out of the three that you mentioned?
Yeah, I was about to answer that for you. We could start with Horizon, since we kind of are, because I was already talking about Burning Shores, and I know it's something that you want to talk about specifically. Horizon has been one, I would say, even more than God of War. Horizon has been like a point of contention, man, in the media for a lot of people, man. It's been getting a lot of criticism, man. I mean, so we could start there, man. I think Horizon's a good start because I think there's a lot of stuff going around for Horizon that is just like misconceived.
This is one of the reasons why you'll see that I am on a crusade to continuously put Horizon in a really good light. Not just graphics, but like now gameplay, things like that. So that's my reasoning. I'm really trying to show people that Horizon is a damn good game in general. And what I get is that Horizon is missing something. You know what I mean? There's this going on with this game, and it's not that, it's an okay game, or it's boring, and, it's just weird shit that goes on with the game. So since I played it, had a good amount of time with the game, still having a good time with the game, one of the arguments that is about Horizon is that people believe that Horizon is not even an RPG, which is fucking insane to me. It doesn't make any sense. They say that the game is some sort of it's a shooter.
Oh shit! Excuse my language, man. But listen, I don't know whoever you've been interacting with, but you need to stop with that. Because that game was a full-blown RPG to me. The storyline was...
No, I know this. I know this. The problem is, I'm not interacting with them. You could just see it all the time. It's everywhere, consistently. People just they just constantly say that it's not an RPG.
But you know what's so funny about that?
You can't pick a particular character or anything like that. It's like what?
But you know what's so funny about that? Due to the fact that later in years, or maybe a year and a half, we should be receiving a a PvE mode for the game, to where we can all, grind and just have fun, right? And also on top of that, I can see how you mentioned how there'd be like arguments about Horizon. I think what the misconception they have with it is that the first one was like, let's be real, because I beat both of them. The first one had a better story than the second one. However, the next gen one was just mainly focused on the next generation, but at the same time, reason why Horizon, the whole brand of Horizon, has all these what you call it, these negative outlooks of the whole game, mainly because, like I said, if it was diverse, people wouldn't have been saying none of that crap. because they know Horizon's a good game. So
Wait,
that's the whole
hold
outcome.
on, wait,
They
wait,
know
wait,
Horizon's a
wait.
good
Before I
game.
finish, before I finish my statement, no, that's not the case. In terms of the story that you just mentioned, it's different, not worse or better. I like the lore of not knowing what the hell is happening and then finding out. But then now that's gone. You know what I mean? The same thing like with Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is going to deal with. The lore to the game of just discovering different things is gone. You're not gonna. It's gone. You know what I mean? And it's one of the reasons why Naughty Dog did what they did with The Last of Us Part Two, because you figure out that Ellie is, she's the cure to it, and you find out the true nature of the Fireflies, and then they pose that question to you, and the game could have been it, you know. But then how the fuck do you top that? How do you top that shocking thing? How do you top, and for Horizon, you know, what is the reason why there's robot animals all over the place? And why are people, what is the reason for that? And then they finally give that to you, and you're like, oh shit, well, there was the end of the world that happened. And all they can do with Forbidden West is offer a new threat. Now in terms of the handling of the story, it's more coarse than the first game, for sure, because they have a lot to kind of cover, a lot of ground to cover. But in terms of it being worse, no. But I want to stick to, and let me finish about the mechanics, because I want to make sure we get through each beat, because there's a lot of ground to cover for the 3 games that we want to talk about today. When people play Zero Dawn, right? And I would argue, me and Ken had this conversation a lot about what game is this game in particular RPG? Is it RPG? Is it not RPG? And most people kind of come to the conclusion that you can't just say it's not an RPG. I mean, it's not RPG because you can't switch characters. RPG is essentially a role-playing game, or classes. You know what I'm saying? The way that Horizon does classes in Forbidden West is different than most games. They allow you to be every single class at the same time, and it's up to you to kind of choose what you want to do. You can mix and match different pieces of the classes instead of just dedicating just to one class, which is off-putting to a lot of people. And it takes time to get used to something different, because that's not something that people are normally accustomed to. That game does a lot of things that people are not normally accustomed to.
Yeah.
The combat system that they have in there in terms of combos, it's not a normal thing that people are accustomed to. You know what I mean? Usually you can just hit a dodge button and it cancels. This one, you have to hold the cancel button. And that cancel button actually is an attack that allows you to close the gap. It works as that as well, but it also cancels. You know what I mean? The game is also very framey. Instead of skipping animations, it allows you to go through the entire animation. There's a lot of frames of animation that's going on, which means that you have to be very methodical as to what you do. That is also off-putting to people, because people don't want to commit to a move. They want to cancel it immediately if they fuck up. And this game doesn't allow you to do that. It's sort of like a Souls game. Problem is, it's not really a Souls game either. It's not a Monster Hunter game either. It's not a shooter either. It's not any of those things. And it's not like trying to play all the fields. That is its identity. Yeah. The identity is not trying to be like this. Aloy is not some superhero where she's, like an RPG where you can knock an enemy up in the air and then keep hitting them like Devil May Cry before they fall to the ground. Nor is it like really realistic either. It's a very unorthodox balance, and you have to learn the mechanics. Now, that's just the motions and animations, because a lot of people, when they play Horizon, I've been watching them, they just literally think that they can chew through an enemy's animation, and you can't. Just like they can't really chew through yours either. So you got to really time it. You just can't just do what you want to do in this game without thinking. You need to know. You have to wait for the enemy AI to do its thing and allow it to recover before you time your move, which has startup animations and recovery as well. So both of them have to be timed perfectly, so you can kind of beat them out. Then there's hitting mechanics, such as when you slide, you reload faster. When you jump up in the air, you reload faster. You know what I mean? If you're falling, you reload faster, and it puts you into concentration. You know what I mean? And then you have the different layers of status effects, which could be looked at as magic. You have something that they have armor, literal armor, not like this a meter. There's actual armor on the machines that you have to break off. If you don't break off the armor, well, 80% of your damage is going to be dampened. So it's crucial to hit a weak spot, which you have your focus to allow for you to kind of highlight the weak spots. So you have to kind of plan, huh?
You know what, too, man? Because I remember we were talking about this before. This is something that I don't think a lot of people, even like we said before, don't give credit to Horizon for what it does, right? A lot of the parts on the machine, man, they all calculate. If I'm not wrong, right? They all have their own collision, right? Which means that you could basically target like most of the parts on the machine, and they actually react in their own way. You know what I'm saying? And it's like that's not even just right the technological side of it, right? Because that's cool from a technology standpoint. Like, oh, you could break off a lot of parts on the machine, right? But it's also like part of the actual RPG elements of the game, man. Because like there's certain parts of the machine, man, that take more damage over others. You know, like you can't just walk.
Some of the pieces. It takes so much damage. You can one shot it if you really like. You were playing it the other day, and you were fighting that fucking Lapras looking thing, right? And normally that fight takes about maybe 3 to 5 minutes, and you killed it in like 1.5 to 2 minutes, just based off of the weakness that you can exploit in the game. If you don't know what you're doing, you're going to have a hard time, and it's going to take long, and it's going to make it feel like the enemies are very tanky. When they kind of told you off rip, you need to focus on the weak spots and the weak statuses. Like the statuses isn't just to, put the enemy in a different state. They are literally weak to it, period. So like something like Purge Water. Purge Water, if the enemy, right, is strong to certain things, like if you have a machine that's strong with fire, and if you put Purge Water on that thing, which is another status, it turns off any type of special abilities they have, like fire or ice, and they're weak to anything at that point. Anything, like whatever they're strong to, they're not strong to anymore for a duration of time. And all those things you plan, and no one pays attention to it. They put it on regular. They chew through the game as best as possible. They just think, oh, explosions. I'm just going to blow this shit up. Oh, it takes too long to kill these things. I don't know. Something about this game just doesn't feel right to me. The game is constantly trying to tell you, like, yo, exploit the weak spots. Because you're not going to just chew through it like the first game. And people are like, well, I mean, let me just do. I don't like the story either because, that just seems kind of outlandish and stuff like that. I don't really like that shit. What you saying?
Yo, let me just walk through the field and look at the clouds or something. I don't even want to play the game and then complain about like how the game doesn't have any gameplay. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they take pictures. Some people, a lot of Sony fans say this is not just about Xbox. These are about like Sony fans as well, where if the game isn't blatantly, and I'm hard on Sony fans mostly because Sony fans parade these games as the best thing ever, and then they don't even support it. So yeah, I'm going to be hard on them specifically. They do a lot of dumb shit to me that irritates me so much. It's so annoying. When I hear about them. Who's that?
Jerk. Yo, what's going on, bro?
Who's that?
Hey, you can hear me?
Oh, yeah. What's going on?
Yeah. So I think one thing with Horizon people forget about, I got the platinum in both the games, all that, blah, blah, blah. Love the game. The Nora, they're hunters, and Aloy's a hunter. And you have to kind of, and what you were saying before, like dismantle the enemies. They're, like the Belos ones. Remember those? They have the big tanks on them. If you go for the tank,
I call them.
Yeah, you can take them out real quick. You know what I mean? So I think people forget that all these robot creatures have weaknesses that you can knock off, like the T-Rex thing. You can knock off the disc thing, hurt that. You know what I mean? You could break its radar, so it's harder to spot you. All these kind of things. I think people are used to more of a straightforward. You aim the cursor at the enemy and just tap the button. You know. And I
See,
think that's why people have an issue with it, because it's not like that. You have to aim. I'm going to take this weapon off and use it, or I'm going to take this off so that they can't use that weapon against me. And even, the ones that drill in the ground, when you break their heating vent things, they can't function as well.
The rock.
I hate those things. Yeah, those.
Oh,
things.
also in the sequel, into Forbidden West, there's stages, hidden stages. You don't think of it, right? So once again, the Lapras thing, he'll usually just like jump at you, right? Do the little body slam spray.
Wait, hold on. What is it? What is a Lapras? Is that water one that looks like that water dinosaur?
That's the Pokemon.
Yeah. I never really watched Pokemon. I know what you mean now. Go ahead. Yeah.
He legitimately looks like Lapras from Pokemon, yo.
It's what is it called? A Tide Ripper is what it is, the official name. I like calling it Lapras because people don't know the names like that.
It looks like that water dinosaur. That's what I think of. I know what you're talking about now. Yeah. I formed the hell out of that because I needed to make something. But go ahead.
Yeah. So this one will jump. It'll body slam. It'll dig his face in there and throw like stuff at you. It'll put purge water on you as well. So it does all that shit, right? But if you get it weak enough, what happens is that it'll go into phase 2, which is low key, right? It's a low key phase. It'll use this little back sprinkler thing. You just can't get close to it. The same thing with the what the fuck is that bear? The fire bear. Fireclaw.
The Fireclaw.
Right. The Fireclaw, if you hit him too much, he'll just make his body hot and you can't freeze it anymore. He's just completely impervious to any kind of freezing ability because he just overheats his body. So you get like little phases. Then on top of it, Aloy. And I can just go on forever. I'm gonna stop talking about it. But like you have Aloy himself. People they want this game to function differently. And it's like, leave it alone. Just allow it to be what it is, right? And once you allow it to be what it is, you start to have fun with it. Aloy has statuses as well. She can get that goop on her, the adhesive stuff where she can't move. You can take potions to make you impervious to things like that as well. She has something called Crush. And Crush, if an enemy hits you too hard, it'll put you into a status where if you move quickly, you'll hurt yourself. You can kill yourself because she's just that damn hurt. So you gotta slow down. You gotta like create distance between you. You know what I mean? There's also the acid with her, where her own, because she has her own buffs as well with her outfits. So like if you have something that is, I don't know, like it's good with defense when it comes to people shooting things at you, and they put acid on you, now you're really affected by ranged attacks and things like that. You have no armor on you. But there's also tremor status effects. If an enemy is near you and they hit the ground too hard, well, it will create like a tremor and she'll stumble. It'll knock you out of your aiming animation if you're too close to them. And that's all the things you got to consider. And people don't know that's going on. They just feel like, well, come on, Aloy, she ain't moving. Well, she ain't moving. Well, that's up to you. You got to keep your distance with certain things. Some enemies you can't hit them. You know what I mean? If an enemy is on fire, you can't use fire arrows on them. It doesn't work. It's already good with fire. It's likewise, melee don't work on every enemy either. So that's an option that's off the table with certain enemies. You can't use everything for everybody like the first game. That's the problem.
You know what I think Horizon kind of runs into specifically, man? I think, and I actually, you mentioned it earlier, but I'm gonna reiterate it again. Horizon kind of suffers a little bit from introducing elements that you would normally find in an RPG, but doing it in an unusual kind of way. You know what I mean? Like a lot of those RPG elements are there. You know, like the status effects, you being able to whatever, catch a machine on fire or some shit like that. Aloy's susceptible to it as well, you know, to a lot of those status effects as well. But it's the way that it's presented to you that's like, okay, like is this really a status effect or what? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is it that I'm actually kind of looking at here? You know, and it's the same shit too. Like in Horizon Zero Dawn, right? You were able, because the game was a lot more simple, right? You were able to kind of like exploit the game's mechanics a little bit easier. You know, Horizon Forbidden West, you're not able to do that, man. You know, they kind of added a little bit more technicality to how you actually engage the machines, that you can't just break the game, you know, essentially. So you kind of have to use like different tactics to actually engage the machines, you know. And the gameplay flow is different, you know, and that's why I kind of don't like it when people say shit like, yo, you know, Horizon's just another generic like open world
Ubisoft
Ubisoft
game.
yeah, Ubisoft game, right? Because you know, there's the map is littered with objectives and a bunch of shit that you could run up to or whatever the case, right? Because it's like when you ask people like, yo, show me a game, right, that plays like Horizon, a lot of people can't fucking do it, right? And you know why they can't do it? Because there's not a game that fucking plays like Horizon. You know, you can't. I mean, just straight up.
Horizon is like a game that's familiar, but not. It's different. It's familiar. It's such an oxymoron of a game because it's and I mentioned this before. The art style also kind of is off-putting. I mean, even though Horizon is a very beautiful game, its art style is it's almost cosplay. You know what I mean? And some of the things that she wears are really, really cool. And it's like the game, when you look at it, you don't take it seriously. It's like the game looks so realistic. It reminds you of like cosplay shit, you know, with somebody would actually, because you could literally, because that's what the developers were seeking. They wanted people to actually know what materials were what. So when you do cosplay, you can put it together. You know, when you look at the outfits and everything else, you could see it looks like what it's made out of. The same thing with machines. If you wanted to make the machines, all the gears are in place where you could obviously not make the machine, but articulate the machine. If you want to make like a, you know, like a miniaturized version of it, you know, all the pieces are supposed to go in its range and all the other good stuff. And that's the part of the art style. Like that argument that we had before, that like it's so much, they say style over substance, but there's a lot that goes on. I have never seen that Utaru tribe, any kind of art style like that in my life. I've never seen that. You know, the satellite dishes that are repurposed into like a treehouse made of bamboo.
Yeah.
Like, I've never seen anything like that.
And the freaking leaves for their outfits and stuff like that. It's cool, man. They have
like
a cool...
like banana leaves and shit like that. And then you have the weird shit that they do in the levels, right? So in the game, you have a AI that was supposed to control water, clean water, right? And what ended up happening when the computer system, the AI became corrupted, right? All the AIs fled to weird places. So everyone knows in this day and age, right? What what Vegas looks like. But how about putting a water AI that controls water into a desert, and then have the desert have like an underwater oasis? Like that shit was a concept that was beyond like, it was so genius. It was like, oh, but of course that makes so much sense, but no one thought of it before. You know what I mean? So it's like no one thought of it, you know, underwater oasis. And I thought about this too, Ken. In terms of the storyline, this is the last thing I'm going to say. There is one other material that balances current world stuff, their future ramifications, and then present day time. There's one game that does that. I mean, one piece of medium, and that is Inuyasha.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Juggling past and present is very hard to do. Horizon has to balance both of those things. They have to run two storylines congruently. Most games don't have to deal with that.
Yeah, that's and I know a lot, and myself included, man, because I'm kind of like still in that category as well. Because I think Aloy can improve as a character. You know what I mean? And that's
Yeah.
and I'm gonna say this too, right? It's not.
Actually, I'm sorry, but real quick, that's the same thing like Inuyasha, because Kagome was what was her predecessor?
I don't fucking know, man.
Did you ever watch Inuyasha?
I watched like bits of it, man. Like I didn't watch it like like
Kikyo. There we go. Kikyo. Kikyo was reincarnated into Kagome in the future, and Aloy is a reincarnation of Elizabeth. So actually, I see you, girl. You trying to be slick. You ain't slick. I see that. But go on, man.
No, man, I was just gonna say, man, because like the space, right, is about like, how PlayStation's games, right? They have a lot of gameplay mechanics and stuff that a lot of people just don't want to give credit, But that's not to say that they can't improve,
Aloy, yes, you were saying that Aloy can improve.
Yeah, like Aloy as a character, right? She can improve as a character, and I was gonna tie it into what you were saying because you were saying that Horizon has to balance like past time and present time and stuff like that. And I know you've mentioned this before, right? About how the way that they set the world up, right, is it plays into how Aloy is as a character. See, like when I play on something like Uncharted, right? And I love that is one of my favorite games of all time, man. I love that fucking game. I will die on that hill.
Oh boy, yeah. I was going to say, I thought you were going to go down a tangent. I was going to say we were almost in that.
Is that an ancient ritual dagger in your pocket?
Ancient ritual dagger in your pocket.
Yeah, I'm just happy to see. I fucking love that game, man. Anyway, but that being said, right? On something like Uncharted, huh?
That's he was a transgender.
Yeah, I know, right? But here's the thing, right? Something like Uncharted, right? The way that the game story is set up, right? It's very, very. I guess you could say it has a sense of progression that it follows like a set storyline. You know what I mean? Horizon, when you're kind of like presented to the game, there's a lot of shit that's going on that you don't know what the fuck is going on, man. And even at the end of the game, like you realize, like they give you the realization of what actually happened to the world. So like when you're coming into the second game, right? Now they have to expand on what they've already done, man, but still balance the story of like why the world is what it is, why people believe what they do, and all this type of shit, right? And what's like you've said before, like what specifically makes Aloy the character that she is the fact that she's a reincarnation of fucking Elizabeth Sobek, and she's like one of the only people aside from Silence, right, who knows what the fuck is going on. So she can't really relate to people like a normal character, It's not like Uncharted, right? Like Uncharted, like fucking Drake, man. He's a dude. That dude. You see at the bar. He could pop open a beer. Whatever. Have a conversation with some random ass chick on the. You know what I'm saying? It's like some shit like that, right? Some dude that you would see like any other day, right? And he has his own like little things about him, right? Aloy's not like that, man. And you can't really put Aloy in a situation where she could have like a regular conversation with people because that's just not what her purpose is in the game.
Not only that, but she found out why she was reincarnated, which is basically she's a bio key to get into a facility to restart the terraforming system. That's what she is. And then you find out why she's a bio key, which essentially there were people that created the terraforming system and they had access to this area, one being Elizabeth Sobek. And then she finds out that Elizabeth Sobek was a person of extreme great importance. She was the one that she had to think, but everybody had to think their lives because of her. Because if it wasn't for Elizabeth Sobek, everybody would have been dead. You know what I'm saying? She's the one that basically, in the future, she's the one that said that, okay, make a terraforming system, allow for everything to get eaten up. We screwed ourselves. You know what I'm saying? But at least new people can go and they can learn from us. Now, Aloy learned that her predecessor did all this shit, And she feels like since I'm a genetic copy, I should be able to do great things too. And so she forces herself in the game to try to do great things, even though she doesn't technically really want to do it. That's why she's always, I'll consider it if I'm in the area.
Oh,
You know,
it's just
she doesn't really want to do it, but she knows that. I guess in her head, that's what she's had a couple of breakdowns within the game where she's just like, fuck, I don't know if I could do this shit. Like, that's kind of like unfair. Like, I got all this shit on my fucking shoulders. I didn't ask for this shit. You know, I gotta do it. And you have people in their stupid little fucking problems talking about some fucking deep spear that's leaking water. She's like, man, if you only knew how fucked up things really are, and I can't even articulate this shit to you because you think that this fucking door is a god.
yeah,
Like how do I how do I explain that the world ended because of technology? And you know, so she's like, I don't know anybody. That's why when Silence and Aloy comes together, she's more herself. And she you know, she's like, you know this shit too. Like, the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, why are you acting like this? And it's funny because, you know, Silence is he's an interesting character. He's Aloy, but jaded as fuck.
yeah,
Like, he's not naive at all. And he's like, you worried about too many things that really, who gives a fuck? You know what I mean? Like, somebody's like, I want to save the world. If you only know how fucked up people are, why would you want to save this shithole? You know, it's like, for what? You know what I mean? Get what you can get out this fucking world and keep it moving. And she's like, you're so fucking cold. Like, Aloy is an emotional person, and she kind of acts in a very realistic manner, where in video games, everyone is exaggerated. You know, they're so exaggerated, and there's, you know, no one's subtle. You know what I'm saying? It's always like some sort of exaggerated like personality trait or whatever. She kind of behaves in how you would expect it. And that's a problem when you write things, you know what I mean? On the other end of the spectrum, you have The Last of Us, right? Where you make the characters a little bit too fucking dramatic. You know what I mean? There's ways of doing things and ways of not doing things when you want people to consume your material. And both ways are incorrect, in my opinion. You don't want to be too dramatic and you want to be too subtle either, because you get people that say that she's boring when she's really just a regular person put in this situation. And it's probably how you would act too.
yeah.
You know, if you were put in a situation like that. But that's not a good story. Like, no one wants to live real life and you're looking for an escapism. You know, she's acting a little bit too on the nose for what it is. You know, people want the drama. People want Aloy popping her thought pocket on top of a Thunderjaw. And she's pregnant with Varro and other characters, and she don't know who the baby is. Like, that's what people want.
Yeah. Like love interest and stuff like that. I mean, really, when you think about a lot of narrative games, right? Like, say something like Mass Effect or even The Witcher, right? I see over here fucking down thumbing, yo, motherfucker.
But Kerr would be the main person that would be like, oh my god, this story is so good. Let me go. I got the tea and popcorn. You'd be the main one that would love
it. Yo, man, I see you. We see you, man. We see you. But what the fuck was I saying? I forgot what the fuck I was saying.
He said 100%.
I was saying, damn, bro,
it was about damn.
About, I really can't fucking remember, yo. What the fuck I was about to say?
I guess I talked too damn much about Horizon. I am so sorry I hijacked your space for this bullshit.
Oh, no. That was the reason why we started the space in the first place, man. Oh, I was saying about the love interest, about fucking Mass Effect and The Witcher. Yeah, because like those games, right? They have they have love interest. You know, they put you in a lot of situations, right? And it's not even just love interest, man. They put you in a lot of like dramatic situations, man. You know, and it's like it's almost like obviously it's a made up world, but they kind of give you like relatable situations that people could actually kind of relate to. You know what I mean? And I think when it comes to Horizon, and you see that with games like Mass Effect and The Witcher and stuff like that, you got like 3 chicks that you could smash. You know what I mean? and yo, in Mass Effect, dude, you could smash everybody, bro. Like you could be whatever you want, dog. Like that was like the modern. That was the modern day game back then. You know what I'm saying? That shit was ahead of its time. It's like,
It was.
but yeah, it was. But when it comes
But
to like,
I did want to say like I don't want to stray too far from people literally thinking that PlayStation games don't have any substance. I really do want to get back on that one. That's why I'm saying I went on a different tangent.
No.
I don't know why. I don't know why people think that PlayStation games are one and done when they can sit there and play like a one and done game like Devil May Cry over and over and over again. And that's no dig to Devil May Cry at all. It's just an example that people can replay that game over and over, or Resident Evil over and over and over again. And it's like when it comes to Sony games, it's like I already played that. You know what I mean? Or it's just about graphics, and no one's looking at the intricacies of the actual game. I guess we should move on to the next thing.
yeah, I was gonna circle back around to all of it, but I think a lot of people, man.
All right, cool.
I think a lot of people, man. I think what they do, man, is they like reduce it to something that is like a generic feature that you kind of like see in a lot of other games, because you can make the argument, right, that Horizon or God of War or whatever, right, whatever game it is, Spider-Man, The Last of Us, like all of these games, right, they all have elements that you've seen in other games. Like it's not like they necessarily have fundamental gameplay mechanics that you haven't seen before, right? But it's more like they present it to you in a way that you don't necessarily see, right? And I think Horizon is the same way, man. Like Horizon has a lot of stuff in it that you could kind of, if you reduce it enough, right? You could say like, oh, okay, I've been in an open world before, right? Oh, okay, I've been able to get on a mount in a game or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like I've been able to swim in a game or whatever the fuck, right? But it's like they don't give you all of the other like little intricacies of it. It's like, well, okay, in Horizon, man, you have to target the freaking parts on the machine. Like there's no other game where I could think of, right, where you have to like target so many, like where the machines are created in a way where you have to target so many different parts on the machine, man, to kill it, and then give you a lot of different ways to do it. You know what I mean? Whether it's traps, whether it's the bow, and Horizon gave you different options, man. Whether it's overriding another machine to kill the machine or whatever the fuck it is, right? And it's like those mechanics, like people don't talk about that shit. People don't talk about the fact that you could fly in Horizon. Like think about how many games, right? How many games are you able to fly in? Like think about that. Like really think about that shit, man. I could think of maybe like a few off the top of my head. And it doesn't function like Horizon does, because like in Horizon, you could call a fucking flying mount at any time. You could be falling out of the sky, man, and the motherfucker will pick you up anywhere at any time. You know what I'm saying? Like how many games do that? Let me
It was crazy about that, right? Is now you gotta see, okay, so Pokemon has like that water Pokemon, right, where you can ride it to cross the ocean, right? Instead of having a different mount, this mount is able to fly and go underwater at the same time. Like what? Like who? Like no one's paying attention to that shit at all. Like, you know what I mean? Like the sheer convenience and consolidation of features, for the sake of convenience,
And you know what?
It really is unfortunate.
And you know what too, right? And it's the same thing with God of War. And this is why God of War, for me personally, man, is a point of contention. And I'm going to get to that in a few minutes. But even with Horizon, right? Because you mentioned how Horizon doesn't, like a lot of people don't consider it an RPG, when in all aspects, man, it's an RPG game. You know what I'm saying? It has all of the elements there. It just doesn't function like a traditional RPG game. And that's cool, right? It is what it is. But when you really like break it down, right? Even outside of like all of the major mechanics in the game, like you could fly, you could swim, you could free climb, you could use your grappling hook to grab onto like pillars or whatever, right, to close the distance or whatever the fuck. You have mounts and shit. But not only that, bro, you have like all of the other things when it comes to your armor and being able to upgrade your armors and shit. You know, all of the different bows and stuff. Like, look, and mind you, I'm not trying to make this shit about like, you know, one platform over another or whatever the case, right? But I was looking at that recent Redfall gameplay, right? And no disrespect to the game, I'm not gonna be up here disrespecting it or nothing, man. But when I saw the gameplay footage, right? Yo, somebody's mic is like loud in the background. Okay, shit. Oh yeah. I think it was. That's cool, man. It's no problem. But
Who was that? Oh, stage block. You gotta fix your shit, yo. What did he say? He said the titty bar.
Yeah, the titty bar. Yeah. No, but I was saying, right? Like they have all of these like different like little pieces of RPG mechanics that like a lot of people. Oh, the Redfall. That's what I was saying. I was looking at the gameplay for Redfall, right? And a lot of people were saying like, oh, that's like a really cool looking game or whatever the case, right? And a lot of people said it was shit, whatever, right? But when I was looking at the footage, right, there was a lot of shit that you kind of like see in Horizon. Like you saw like there was a gun that was a freaking epic gun, or there was a gun that had like, you know, whatever. It had some kind of like status to it. It was epic, or it was like rare, uncommon, or whatever the fuck, right? But you kind of give credit to that shit. But Horizon has the same shit in it, right? Hold on, let me add my man's here. Add you in here, bro. All right, cool. All right, so like in Horizon, right, it's the same shit, right? You have bows and weapons and stuff that follow like a similar type of, you know, progression. You know, you have bows that are uncommon, bows that are more epic or whatever the case. I forgot what they called it, man, but they have that type of shit in the game, and it's like people don't want to give that shit credit. You know, it's like, oh, you know, Horizon's just a pretty game. It's beautiful, whatever. Yeah, it's the most beautiful game I've seen, whatever, right? But there's no gameplay. But it's like, dude, in all aspects, man, like if you really take time to break down and look at all of the mechanics that they have in the game, bro, it's like, yo, that shit is legitimately an RPG game. And not only is it an RPG game with like how you can customize your armors and weapons and shit and all your weaves and all that type of shit, right? All that shit is in there. But now you have to implement all that shit with how you interact with the machines. And the interactions with the machines, man, are unique in its own right. You know what I'm saying? Now you're now you're adding all of these other things into the game, like flying and swimming and all this shit, right? And these are all things that were like not even in the first game, bro. You know, like some of these mechanics weren't in the first game, and it's like, yo, is that not enough? Like, when is it enough to say that?
Honestly, I ignore those people because the thing about it is half the people who are saying these things don't really even like Horizon in the first place. It's not their cup of tea. So they're gonna overlook a lot of situations. Like even some of them scoff when I said, and I was literally pointing out like even like there's this Xbox chick I was like joking with about Horizon stuff like that, and I would tell her like how much you know RPG elements are in the game because it is an RPG, and she's like, no, it just doesn't feel like an RPG. Well, I guess your idea of what an RPG is kind of like shifty, you know?
Yeah.
Because there's many.
You know what I can't overlook is that smoke detector in the background.
Oh yeah, it's gotta be. I'll turn it on.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell that is in the background, man. Hard to hear.
1 second. 1 second.
But yeah,
hey, what's up, Stage and fucking Jerk, man? Hey, what's up, y'all? But you know, honestly, bro, I ain't gonna lie, man. I'm saying straight up, like I thought Horizon Forbidden West was my game of the year. The game, bro, it's fucking beautiful as fuck. The whole flying thing, and then you know what I'm saying? Like it's just that game mind bogged me, like what PlayStation could actually do. You feel me?
Is that all that the game is worth? Is just graphics?
yeah. See, that's the thing.
It's not just that though.
Every time somebody describes that game, it's always like, man, that game is so good looking, it's so good. And it's like, well, what about the gameplay?
Yeah, but even Ubisoft downplayed it. Like, that's the problem. Like, and that when you've got these companies, like they like Ubisoft when they you know talk about Nintendo, they're about ready to drain their balls. But then when they talk about Horizon, they're like, oh yeah, they've got elements just like Far Cry, whatever,
Yeah.
or like some other game that we have, like. And the crazy thing is that they'll copy a game, and then shamelessly, as soon as it makes money, no matter where, like they'll give a credit to The Witcher, but like if they take something from, God forbid, they take something from Sony, that's the problem. Like I think everybody has a little issue with Sony to some degree.
Yeah.
Stage. Hey, it kind of reminds me of like that interview I had with Jeff Ross, right, from Days Gone. He ended up saying that everybody kind of take that Far Cry kind of template. You know what I'm saying? And it is what it is, but you kind of have to make creative in your own way.
Dude, even Breath of the
Well,
Wild.
let me ask. Look, wait. Is that Remnant?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Remnant. Let me ask you a question. Oh yeah, somebody's mic is fucked up.
That's not me. I'm muting myself every time.
I know it's not you.
It's all good, man. Somebody said it's fucked up. God damn.
I gotta say that shit. No. So when you get into your car, granted you have one, do you think of a different way of getting into your car? Like, is there like a specific way that you get in your car that no one's ever got into the car? Like, is it just one way of getting into a car, or is there new ways of getting into a car?
It depends. Like, for instance, like look at my Honda S1000. It's kind of hard for me to get out of it because it sits low. So I had to fucking put my hand in the actual door to get out of it because it sits low as shit. I don't know what kind of question you're asking.
The question here is that, look, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. There are reasons for why things are the way that they are. That's like, oh, every game is the same game because I have to use an analog stick. It's like,
yeah,
why do I gotta press up to move the character forward? Like, I mean, that's like Ubisoft. Like, it's the dumbest shit. Like, there's reasons why you have quest markers and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Fucking Zelda and fucking Elden Ring have those things. And the Elden Ring had that shit patched in. There are fucking legitimate reasons. But that doesn't make the game the same fucking game.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is what he said.
I know that you. No, I'm agreeing with you. I know that for the people, that comment was for the people that say, it's a generic game, just because it has like a couple of things that every other fucking game has. Because there's Ubisoft Towers in Breath of the Wild as well, but nobody mentions that.
No, people mention that Ubisoft is generic from beginning to end, whatever they do.
I know.
They can't get away from it. Like cookie cutter. That's they get called out all the time.
Yeah, and
I don't know why though. It's dumb.
I mean, honestly, I think it's warranted in that situation, man, because a lot of Ubisoft games, man, they don't really change that much. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's not because of a map, though. It's not because of a map. It's their games that they all play very similarly.
Yeah, even if you change the style, like third-person shooter, first-person shooter, it doesn't matter. You're gonna play the same game.
Yeah. See, like what I was saying, right?
Hey, but if you really think about it, bro, like there's nothing wrong with that if you really think about it. Like honestly, like as long as you have a good story, man, and good gameplay, you should be good, man. That's all it is. If you follow a template, like it's all right. You know what I'm saying?
No, that's not. It's not the problem.
Well, like here's the thing.
The thing is that.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, it's just I think people are looking for like a unique product in between the IP that they have, and the thing is that like when they copied like Assassin's Creed, then they struck oil, like it wasn't just Far Cry that was one of the heavy hitters that they had again, that the franchise that kind of fell from grace now is like selling like 30 million copies, and again like the things that they took and they added on top of it benefited Assassin's Creed, even though Assassin's Creed diluted itself in terms of story. Like you were saying, it doesn't matter
Like if they borrow some of things from other games, as long as the story's okay. But the problem with Assassin's Creed is it's selling better than ever, and the story is becoming trash. Like it's truly becoming trash.
No,
Well,
I
people
get you,
say,
brother. I get you, brother. Like honestly, like when I was talking to Jeff Ross, he ended up like talking
Yeah.
about The Last of Us Part 2, right? He ended up saying that he's fascinated. He told me that he was fascinated by like the risk taking they're actually taking when it comes to storytelling and stuff like that. And that's interesting because I love storytelling, brother. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't
Yeah.
watch TV shows that much, or movies or anything like that, but video games is like pretty much like my form of entertainment, if that makes any sense. But
See, here's
you know what I mean?
right?
Go ahead. My bad. Go ahead.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Oh shit, bro. I thought you were done.
No, go on.
No, I was just gonna say, right, and I kind of said this already before, man. Like you can literally, right, you could take pretty much any game, right, and reduce it so much to its functionality and say that a lot of games have that shit. You know what I mean? Just like Josh said, it's like, yo, why aren't people complaining about being able to move forward with an analog stick? I mean, every fucking game does it. You know what I mean? Or the fact that there's an open world or a map or quest markers or whatever the fuck. You know what I'm saying? It's like a lot of these games share, like, from a fundamental standpoint, right? Functionality, a lot of the same traits, you know? So it's weird to me, man, when people say like, oh, it's a generic game or whatever the case. And it's funny, like I said before, man, like a lot of the criticisms, man, you know, it seems like people tend to reserve that shit for the type of games like Horizon, you know, when in all aspects, man, Horizon has done a lot to change the mechanics that it had from the first game. And even if you take that part out of it, right, Horizon has mechanics that you don't really see implemented the way that they implemented it in other games. You know, it's just not how it is. And it's the same shit with like Sony's other games, man, like God of War. That's the one that I personally have like a point of contention for, man, because it's like God of War does a lot of cool shit with his gameplay, man. You know, and it did a lot to improve from in terms of its gameplay. And a lot of people just don't want to give the credit that it deserves, man. Like, dude, legitimately, I went down a fucking laundry list of shit that they added into God of War Ragnarok, bro. Like a whole new. They gave you like the same levels you were in, right? But they like Alfheim, for example, right? Alfheim, you weren't able to explore Alfheim like you can in Ragnarok. You know, same shit, like Midgard, right? And they gave you new areas to explore. They gave you a whole fucking new story. They gave you a new weapon. They gave you a whole revamped like fucking skill tree that wasn't in God of War 2018. You know, but it's like that's like people don't want to give the credit where that shit is due. You know what I'm saying? God of War does a lot of cool shit, man. You know, and I really, it's so weird to me, man, that so many people can say, like, yeah.
People have
I'll
the
be,
nerve to call that.
I'll be
People,
honest with you, brother. I'm surprised that neither God of War or what's it called, Horizon Forbidden West, like ended up getting that Game of the Year, right? Because that shit fucking weird. Elden Ring is pretty much the same shit from like from a software game, right? You know,
oh,
it's
you can't
pretty
say
much
that. You can't
the
say
same kind of
that.
shit. You know what I'm saying? So the thing with Horizon Forbidden West and God of War is that they innovated more, like differently. You know what I mean? So like that was special to me. You know what I'm saying?
You can't say that
Yes.
though. Elden Ring is the best thing that you've ever played, man.
I know,
It's
right?
a cult classic. You
Yeah,
know,
it got a 97 on Metacritic. It's one of the best games ever created. So, and it won
it's
Game.
it's totally different from any other From Software game that's ever came around.
No, it's pretty much the same shit, man. Honestly, it really is. To be honest with you.
No, but see, here's the thing, right? Because I think what people tend to do, right, is they'll kind of like take a game and they'll say that a game that uses refinements, right, is a game that doesn't evolve enough. You know what I'm saying? Like God of War 2018 to God of War Ragnarok, right? They added a lot of shit in the game, but there are other shits that they just basically refined in the actual gameplay. You know what I'm saying? It's not like they took the whole thing and like, you know, threw it in the trash and, you know, did it over again, gave you whole new fucking animations for every goddamn thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, it was a refinement from what 2018 was doing, you know? And it's like, a lot of people will say like, oh, it's not doing enough to change the whatever. I don't know what the fuck they
Well,
mean.
you know, people say that God of War was literally the same game. You know, DLC and all that other good shit. You know what I mean? Despite the fact that it uses different assets. You know what I'm saying? And if they had the same area, they drastically altered it. You know what I'm saying? Like the Lake of the Nine and Alfheim, and you know, and then on top of it, they had another fucking character in the game with his own skill tree. So there's that as well. But nobody seemed to, you know, really care about that. You know what I'm saying? You know,
Or even
and
You're talking about David Jaffe when he ended up making that comment. They said it looked like fucking DLC.
no, see the thing about David Jaffe. No, I'm not talking about that. He's just a bitter old man that he don't like the fact that you know his games didn't catch on. Like his situation was he wanted to make smaller games because he didn't feel like spending all day or a couple of years on a fucking AAA game. So he with other people he created God of War, and then he you know thought his shit didn't stink, and he went to create smaller games, and they weren't popping. Multiple games that he made weren't popping. So he feels because God of War has never been as popular as it is now. You know what I'm saying? He feels some kind of way about it, especially your co-worker literally took your creation and made it mainstream, essentially. You know, so he's gonna feel a kind of way. And he's a bitter person. No, I'm talking about the people that was out there that was recording Kratos jumping onto a boat and saying it was the same animations and all other weird old shit, you know, that they were doing. But then you talk to other people, excuse me.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Kind of funny you mentioned that when David Jaffe was on what's it called, Thrash Show, the Round Table, and then Sick was there. Sick Humor TV, one of my favorite dudes, and Thrash is my guy. Like, man, dude, he went all out. Like, you know, spilling out all that bullshit that was going on with like him fucking talking shit. Like, I remember Sick saying some shit like, talk to all your former co-workers and stuff like that, right? Like, and tell them that it was a DLC, but it's not a DLC. Like, come on, man.
He tried to really paint that picture and act like, oh, it's not a bad thing, but again, he's doing what he does because he wants controversy to fuel his,
and that makes no sense.
Things.
That makes no sense because if you actually played the God of War the way he originally created it, and it goes directly into the next God of War, almost as if time didn't really pass. So, I mean, you could consider that a DLC by that stretch of the imagination as well. I mean, and especially the gameplay didn't take a great leap, especially, but it did focus a little bit more on story.
What do you expect? What do people expect you? What are people expecting? But if it's a sequel.
Yeah, of course. But the thing is that's gaming. And especially back then, it was much easier and faster to make a sequel to a game like a year or two after, you know? Today, it takes
hold
much
on,
longer.
brother. Hold on, brother. That's not a DLC, honestly.
No, I'm not saying it's a DLC.
No, but what you just said, you was like,
yeah,
well,
I'm using his logic.
Wait. No, I know, but you just said that they didn't really do anything to progress the games. What do you mean?
No. I was saying that the game itself didn't really the way that they made it is that they essentially it was almost like there was no leap in time because of the fact that one part of the story follows immediately into the next. If you play
we're talking about gameplay elements.
I understand that, but I'm talking about back in Jaffe's time. He can call this game DLC, but there's more leaps taking place.
Oh, well, here's the thing.
Hold on, bro. Who gives a fuck about Jaffe's time, bro? Like, honestly, that makes no sense to me. Like, you know, we're moving forward.
No, what they did with God of War, it comes from a time when there weren't as many leaps taking place.
No, there was leaps. Between one and two, being a David Jaffe apologist isn't it?
Yo,
you know what I'm saying?
I was like, not really any difference besides the characters from Twisted Metal 1 and 2 too. What the fuck? That's a card pack.
The greatest difference in that game, the greatest difference in God of War 2 was everything that Cory Barlog changed. And that was primarily story based.
They
He
had
made a superior story.
they had different weapons. You talking about God of War
2.
The God of War, to 1 and 2.
Yeah.
They had different elements like the Pegasus ride and shit like that. They had the boss battles that were completely different from the other ones. They had different weapons, more weapons. You know what I'm saying?
Don't forget the wings too.
You know what's funny is
Huh?
people that are saying this
Don't forget
though.
the wings.
You know what?
Yeah, you had the Icarus wings. You had a lot of things. So you can't just say that it wasn't that much of a leap. It was a crazy leap.
I don't know about crazy leap, but yeah. But the game did form fit.
What's going on, Black? I wasn't even looking.
No,
I'm
you're
sorry.
it's Nelson, man.
Yeah, but the thing is that like Cory Barlog, the changes that he made, especially with the story, helped it for the better. And if that's an insult to him and his ego, I guess so.
Well,
but
I told you it's that this is more than just like again. He's doing it. There's ego and then there's clickbait as well. So he's doing both. Both of those things are an issue for David Jaffe. You know, he wants both of those things. You don't like the fact that Cory once again elevated his own creation.
Yeah,
he did it with God of War 2 and 3, because 3 even was a major leap. Not even
but
just
that
graphics.
wasn't Cory though. That wasn't Cory.
You know, it was Cory for I think a year. I think let me finish. For the first year, he was there, and then he quit.
Okay. Yeah, but
so a lot of the stuff that they
he probably quit because of David, because that's probably why he ended up having to leave, was because a lot of people have said working with him, like he would fucking, like, you know what I mean, call you a stupid fucking piece of shit, and you know what I mean. He was
so was Cory. Cory's irritating to work with as well. I mean, he's softened up over the years, but
I don't think he was
both of them niggas
calling him fucking.
Both of them were very irritating. Both of them were like very irritating.
Nah, like Jaffe would like
Jaffe was the worst out of both of them, like way worse.
Like he would be like threatening people and shit.
Yeah, that dude was a whole different beast from
what people I've heard people talk about him. Like if he went off on people, like he would just be like, you fucking don't deserve to live. You're such a fucking, you know what I mean? Just like on and on and on and on.
And from going from there,
they didn't like that shit. Sorry.
To being as soft as he is now, you know what I mean? It's just very
much. It's a different era, like the way that people's outlook.
Well, it's kind of to be honest with you, to be honest with you, man, like every time I see and listen and hear David Jaffe talk about anything, I'm like, is this the same motherfucker who made God of War? Like, this can't be the same nigga who made God of War. This soft ass bearded ass motherfucker. Like, who is this guy?
Now he's like, I just want to make a puppet game and get paid for it.
What was hold on, what was like one guy that did that Olympics and changed himself?
Oh, you're talking about the guy who won the gold in multi in the triathlon. Bruce Jenner.
What was Bruce? If Bruce can change into Caitlyn, then David can change into new David. So,
well, he's all accepting now and stuff like that because his son's like gay or something.
I think his son is like trans.
Something like that. Yeah,
anyway,
he's the
something like that.
No, but he's. I think he's a little further on the left. Yeah.
He's
that's neither here nor there. That's neither here nor there.
No, we were just talking about how he.
Yeah,
changed,
he just like flips off the script.
No, I mean, there's people who can act that way and still be on the far left, while developing. And again, in the arts, you're gonna find a lot of people who are on the left. Anything that's liberal, in terms of art, literature, things like that, like history, even, because there used to be more conservative branch of history itself, but it just became inundated. With in colleges, but that's not in today's world. Yeah, that's just how it is, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
brother.
Wait, hang on. Did you see that guy that dude that he identifies as a chick? He broke all the fucking records for like 2 weeks ago.
Hold on a second.
Hey, hold on. Hey, brother. Hey, hold on. Fuck the left and the right, man. I don't give a shit. Walk your own path, man. That's just what it
Yeah,
is.
you can be a hard ass on either side. Like it doesn't really matter. That's what I'm
Well, the
saying.
whole thing was how he just flipped. Like he went from one to the next.
Yo, hold on. Because I mean, you could literally have a space talking about that shit just on its own, man. Because that could go way, no pun intended. That shit could go way left field. You know what I'm saying? That shit. You know what I'm saying?
but I mean, even but the thing is that like I don't as a person who is on the left, it's I don't really attribute any of that.
I don't even know why you would even consider yourself on any side of anything, man. You should be looking at policies and what
I do works. Look at policies.
No, and what works.
I do look at policies and what.
I would, but I wouldn't call myself any kind of side because both have.
No. It's not that I call myself any kind of side. It's
you just did though. You just was like
Yeah, it's not just that I'm saying that. I'm saying that because of the fact that a lot of the policies I end up landing on end up being somewhere towards center left. It tends to just.
All right, we should move on. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Yeah, but you're telling me that, but
No.
Hey, look, man. You and Josh, man, are free to duke it out, man. You know,
it always happens.
Yeah. Hey, I'll be there to watch it. You know what I'm saying? I'll be cheering you guys on. You know what I'm saying with my cheerleader outfit and shit, man. Whatever, man.
Yeah, but
hold on, hey, brother. Let's keep it out of politics. No politics, like keep it gaming, my nigga.
And still be on the left.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just want to, kind of, like I said, touch on this whole thing with the gameplay stuff, man.
Yeah,
I want to say, well, let me go back to God of War. So God of War, they said that's the thing I keep asking myself. How come people can go back to Devil May Cry so frequently and beat that game multiple times, but they can't do that for God of War?
You know why? Because it's a quarter of the length. A 12-15-hour game, you're more or less to go back to 50 to 100 hour.
What about Returnal, though? What about Returnal?
What?
See, so hold on, man.
If you're good, you can run through it in like 6 hours.
Yeah, but see, this is the thing, right? And I think it was Stage Block who said something about it earlier. Some of these games are just. It seems like some of these games are just not people's quote unquote cup of tea. You know what I'm saying? Because you could have people run through, say something like Resident Evil 4, right? A bunch of times. Resident Evil 8. When I started playing Resident Evil 8, I didn't like it at first, man. But after I played through that shit like 12 times, man. I fucking love it now.
Resident Evils are great because of the weapon upgrades throughout the shit. That's why.
With Returnal, that's pretty much
that's one aspect of what makes it great. But go on though.
With Returnal, it's a learning curve, bro. Like honestly, like I got used to the game and I beat 4 bosses in a row and shit. Like so, you got to get that learning curve in order to fucking understand the game and how it works.
Mm-hmm.
But then the same thing happened, right? With Demon Souls and Dark Souls and the Souls games. People can play those games and love it. You know what I'm saying? But when it comes, and they're supposed to be quote unquote hard,
No, but that's why you're not challenging yourself, man. That's why you fuck up, because you're not challenging yourself. You got to understand how the game mechanics work.
No, I know, but like people are willing to give other games a shot.
Yeah, I think that comes the actual word we're looking for is the execution that people desire.
Yeah, see, me and Illicit, man, we were talking about this before, man. Because you could have people who, like I was saying, right, play a game like Resident Evil 4, right, and you'll play it a lot. Like you'll see people talking about how many times they played through the game and how much they loved it and stuff like that, right? But when it comes to, say something like, hell, I'll even give you something like Returnal, man, because Returnal does have a learning curve on it, but fuck, man, so did the Souls games when people played that shit, you know what I mean? But it's funny because like everybody loves how they implemented it in the Souls games, man. But when it comes to Returnal, everybody fucking got 15 kids all of a sudden, and Sony's not, respecting their time anymore and shit like that. You know what I mean? It's like
nah, Ratchet and Clank, that's too damn short. Then this is too goddamn long, and this is too goddamn hard. You don't like you don't want any of them. So just shut up. Just stop.
But that's what I'm saying. That was my point from the beginning, right? Because the whole start of the conversation was like Sony has a lot of their games, right, that have great gameplay mechanics. I mean, God of War has great gameplay mechanics. Horizon has great gameplay mechanics. Returnal, Ghost of Tsushima, you know what I'm saying? Like all of these games like have really, really great gameplay mechanics, but it's like people don't want to give it the credit that it deserves.
You know what I?
But then
Hey, hold on. Hey, facts, my brother. Facts right there.
Yeah,
I think this is. I think I know why. I think I get it. I do.
Like I like
But that's
Gears,
been a
dude, but they
problem
got the
for
same. They got the same. They got the same animations, the same run, the same. Nothing changed from 1 to 5, except a couple
What game?
characters.
Like I was trying
Like
to
Gears.
explain this. I was trying to explain this to a lot of Xbox cats, like, because I've been around for a while, and the thing is that like even
Aren't you an Xbox guy?
he's a gamer. That's what he is.
I'm primarily a PlayStation guy, but I play everything.
So basically, what you're trying to say is that you tuck your Xbox cock between your legs when you go in these
Yeah,
spaces.
pretty much. Like
Okay.
Just don't forget to cough.
No.
I'll be honest with you. Hey, I'll be honest with you. I don't even fucking know what a gamer is, to be honest with you.
The gamer. is the person
wait.
who plays
I'm
games.
gonna.
And
I'm gonna say
it's not the term gamer isn't even beholden to just video games itself. It's just that the term itself has become a name in popular culture. But even if you play board games, if you play chess, you're a gamer.
Yeah.
Wait, so let me explain that. I don't know, Kim. You want to wrap it up soon?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can go ahead and say what you want to say.
I want to say this. I think I know why. Do y'all remember when PlayStation's games, when PlayStation made games, no one bought it? Do y'all remember that, or you're too young for that?
Bro, I used to buy PS games all the time.
Mm-hmm. Do y'all remember? Do y'all remember The Getaway? Do y'all remember?
Oh yeah.
Jack and Dexter. Do y'all remember Sly Cooper? Do y'all remember those games where they only did like 2 or 3 million? Nobody really played those games, and people didn't take Sony seriously. You know how long?
Yeah,
it
Nintendo
took?
cats wouldn't take Sony serious for shit.
Like when Sony made a masterpiece that is Shadow of the Colossus. The soundtrack to this day still hits, and it hits different. The game hits different.
They're like, that's one game, bro.
One of the games of the best games and the most original games, right? And no one, Gran Turismo, no one took that shit seriously either. You know, they just was like, there's 2 games. I mean, I know it sold a lot, right? But that was the only 2 games that Sony was known for, even though they made a shit ton of games. Mm-hmm. Do y'all remember when Sony was taken seriously and how long it took for Sony to be taken seriously?
Yeah, PS3 area.
Yeah, it took them about 2 generations to become serious. And I think that Sony is known because the reputation went from them not really making games to their niche, which is story games, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's in people's mindset is stuck on story.
You know why they actually did that?
I know why. It doesn't matter why they did it. The situation is this: why are people accepting it as just story games, even though there's gameplay? Now think about it, right? Sony's games were a bit simplistic, right? On the PS3, 2, and 3 side. A lot of the games, like Uncharted was a simplistic game. Killzone was relatively simplistic. You know what I'm saying? Resistance was regular. It was basically
like God
simplistic.
of War compared to Devil May Cry was
God of War was simplistic, right? Yeah. Because what they were really trying to peddle was this is what our console can do. You know, the graphics and story. Mm-hmm. And now that's all people know. But there's going to be a transition where people would finally see Sony for what they are in terms of gameplay. But I think it's going to take a long time because people's mind are still set on Sony making story. I had spaces with Xbox talking about some
Sony's not really that good. I mean, I don't have a problem with Sony. You know what I mean? I just think that they focus on single player games too much. You know what I'm saying? Like they need to really focus on multiplayer games. I'm like, did you play Killzone 2? Did you play Mag? Did you play SOCOM? Did you play any of those games at all? Do you know that they were some of the most pioneered games? No one knows this though for some reason because I guess that's the reputation that they've gotten.
Yeah, it's funny, man, because you hear a lot of people say like, that Sony like they.
Yo, COD had a lot to do with that though, because when that came out, fucking, I didn't play anything else besides that either.
This is like before that, even like they wouldn't give Sony like Nintendo. They're back in those days, in the forums especially. Like Nintendo and Xbox gamers teamed up big time, and the thing is that Xbox gamers didn't even have a leg to stand on in terms of standards, but somehow they still had this click with Nintendo fans.
With the media too.
Well, yeah, because they were both their ass into them.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about it is this, right? Because they knew that Xbox was basically a multiplayer machine. They knew that much. But then they needed something to satiate the single player experiences, which they used the Wii. So they would call it the Xbox Wii 60.
Yes, the Wii 60
So
deal.
basically,
The Wii 60
like,
deal because of the fact that you could get both for the price of a
PlayStation 3.
Yeah.
So basically, what you're saying is like pretty much the shooter box, right? Like we, used to call it shooter box. That's the Xbox, right?
Yeah, that's what it was known for, and that's one of the reasons why. Even if Microsoft came out with a game that was really good story-wise, people still won't take them serious. It takes years for mindsets to be changed.
Isn't that true? Years it was.
You know what's funny, man? Because now that you guys mention it, right? Because Xbox was known for years, man, for being like Remnant said, the shooter box or the multiplayer shit. You know what I'm saying? They're known for their multiplayer stuff. And then at a point, right, Sony was known for their single player stuff, even though they did a lot of projects that were multiplayer based, like Mag and Killzone 2 and 3 and Shadowfall, like all this stuff, right? Like they had
SOCOM was big. SOCOM was like, that's the thing. No, the thing that hampered SOCOM was the internet connection, whatever the case is. But really, like if it had, like it was just as big. I remember SOCOM 4, because it was third person. People didn't like that shit either. It was just like Sony did a lot of shit that went under the radar.
Yeah, that they don't kind of get credit for, man. And it's like, Sony went through like a lot of steps to try to make the multiplayer shit. And it's funny when people say like, oh, they should have just invested more in the multiplayer. And you know what, man? I'm not gonna say that maybe that's not, a valid criticism. I think it is, but I'm not gonna say
a valid criticism. They tried and they failed.
Well, here's the thing, man.
Dude, they were broke. They needed to get back on their feet because they went from 50 billion value to 12 or 11.8 in like 2 years. That's why those studios got closed and shit. They had to cut back or they were gonna go bankrupt.
Yeah, they made more new IP than both Nintendo and Xbox in that generation.
Literally. Yeah, and this is the thing that kills me, man, is because it's like, well, they people keep saying like, oh, they should have, focused on the fucking multiplayer shit. I'm like, yo, they did a lot of stuff with their multiplayer, man. It just so happened, right, that a lot of the games that did very well were their single player games. A lot of those games just didn't make it, man. And it's hard to say.
Exactly.
It's hard to say
Modern
why.
Warfare 8, the whole fucking.
It's not hard to say. It's not. That's the thing. Like a lot of people. One of the things that why like. When we talk about like sales and things like that is because we try to ground ourselves in the reasons why we do not get sequels to these games. And a lot of like the people who are on forums, they got themselves, used to these, gaining some form of knowledge from articles, from, quarterly reports, things like that, that actually help them understand how the industry works so that they don't have to be let down when a game just falls out of nowhere. They understand the investments, what these companies are putting into their games, and what they expect as a consumer to get back. They just
hold on. Let me ask y'all a question real quick. Like, why do you guys care about fucking FPS games? Like, honestly, like, why does it fucking matter? To be honest,
it's not about us.
Wait. What do you? Wait. Hold on. What do you mean by that? What is that question?
Okay, what I'm saying is that you have like free to play games and stuff like that, and you have like third party and stuff like that. Like, why do you guys care about that shit when it comes to PlayStation?
Yeah, the 5
I don't
biggest
understand.
games
I
are
don't get it.
none of them are Xbox games.
Why the PlayStation need to be? Why does PlayStation need first person shooters?
I
Is
think
that what you're asking?
I think I kind of understand his question. I mean, this is what I'll say. Because I personally, right, I am not the biggest FPS fan. You know what I'm saying? I never have been. But taking me outside of like the equation, right? I can see that, that is particular genre and maybe a couple others, right, is a deficiency when it comes to the PlayStation brand. You know what I'm saying? So I can critically say like, yo, that's something that I think that they need to work on. I also think that they need to work on having more Japanese games. You know what I'm saying? Under their belt and shit like that.
They did though, and they made some of the most unique Japanese games, and nobody bought them. So it's like, it's either you just want the same thing over and over again, the same JRPG, where you walk around and the screen breaks into little triangles, and then you go into a party mode, and then you got to beat these people, and you have a victory dance, and then the same betrayal and all this other shit, or active battles. Like, that's when I hear weebs talk about, not you, but when I hear weebs talk about what they need more Japanese games, I'm like, they already did that and you didn't like it. You just want the same JRPG again. And then when Sony actually did a JRPG, it only did like 1 million.
Yeah, but Square even explained that whole situation.
But fucking PlayStation is fucking Japanese studio. Like, dude, they're from Japan. Like, come on, bro. Like, seriously.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Yeah, but Square explained that whole
the thing about it is is exactly what I said before. There is a little bit of luck, but there's also you need to like get a reputation for things like that. Keep doing the same thing over and over until you get the reputation.
Yo, you know what, man? Hold on. Let me just add on to that, right? Because you say, right, like you need to get a reputation for shit, right? And to kind of bring it back a little bit.
Who said what's up?
Yo, what's good, man?
What's up, bro?
Brian, what's going on, Brian?
Oh my God, Brian, man. That's my dude right there. That's my dude.
I just came in to talk about how good Game Pass is.
Hey, look, man.
Get the fuck out of here, man. What the
we're not gonna be in here too much longer, man, because I'm gonna start wrapping this up pretty soon. I'm gonna let you say what you want to say, man. But I just want to add on to what Josh was saying about you need to get a reputation for shit, right? And it's funny because when it comes to this whole multiplayer thing, right, and even Japanese or whatever other deficiency that Sony kind of needs, right? It's funny, like they've actually invested more into some of these things than people actually want to give them credit for, which is kind of like what this topic was kind of about anyway, man. Some of the shit that they don't get credit for, like for example, right, Ghost of Tsushima, man, has a fucking multiplayer that's cool as fuck. You know what I mean? But they didn't get any credit for that shit. But that's another issue that
I was playing that last night and today. That is the fucking best shit.
Do you want to know why that is?
Yeah, go ahead.
The multiplayer does not supersede the single player. What they want is something that when people rush to go and play it, kind of like COD or Halo, before they even go into the storyline itself, they'll jump into the multiplayer.
That's
where you're wrong. They don't even play it.
When it comes to Sony games, they already have statistics stating that they didn't even play the multiplayer games. So I'm gonna tell you this, right? People's time is limited. People's time is also currency. So people are going to spend the most time on what's hot, what's new. People are very impressionable. Do you guys know?
Hold on. Who said that shit?
I did.
Bro, who said that shit?
What happened?
Listen.
All right, okay, bro. Come on. No. Bro, I played The Last of Us for like probably 10 years.
Nigga, that's you. That's you. That's you. And you acting like it's
we don't have 10.
You acting like it's 5-10 million people do. That's just you.
Yeah, you're in a safe space right now. Like you're talking about other people right now.
Bro, we're talking about like all together. Like no one really bought and played that shit. They have the statistics. No one's going to keep the servers running all day and night for 3 people. That's not going. That's
Bro,
not. That's
That's
sorry.
just still
If you
running.
keep,
That's just
I
still
know.
running to this
I,
day.
it is running because they have
2013, bro.
It is.
I got into a
but
game of
they have
Ascension
to. They
a while
have to.
back.
They have to definitely keep the optics going and shit like that. There's many reasons as to why. But if you look at the statistics for these games, it ain't that many people. What 4,000, 5,000 people? Other games running like 30,000 people. Like, come on. Here's the thing, right? Do you
So
guys
don't
know?
question me, then don't question fucking it. You know what I'm saying? Like when I'm telling you straight up that there's people like you could fucking find a lobby in The Last of Us, right? Don't fucking
There's dozens of us. That's what it sounds like. You're just saying there's dozens of us. No one gives a fuck about dozens of fucking people. You're lucky to keep that bitch on. I get it. I like The Last of Us multiplayer. I really loved it. You know what I mean? Until they released that fucking DLC shotgun and it fucked the game up. But we're going to digress from that. Here's the thing, right? Do you guys know why Call of Duty was big? Do you know why it blew up? I bet you guys
I have
don't.
no idea, bro. I used to be ranked 300 in the world and kills confirmed this shit. I don't give a shit about that game anymore, though. But I mean, it's really up to you.
It was a perfect storm.
It was the only game I
happened, right?
played for multiplayer for years, and now I don't play it at all.
It was a perfect storm. 2 things happened, right?
Nah, it was dog shit.
There's what was it? There was Halo, because Halo was the big shit. But the problem is Halo was only on Xbox. The war is the thing that actually.
What point are you trying to prove? Because like Halo is dog shit.
What do you mean what point I'm trying to prove?
I want to hear this because the thing is that like it wasn't just Halo that they took the crown from. They also took the crown from Medal of Honor. So I would love to hear this.
Well, Medal of Honor didn't go into the modern. So the thing is, war is the thing. The war is the thing that did it.
Yep.
See, we were already we were going to Iraq and shit like that, right? And people wanted to morbidly experience that shit, and you know what I mean. It made people feel connected to actual soldiers, and that was back in the day when patriotism was actually pretty damn good. We thank the people that fought for this country. That's back in the day. You don't do that no more. But that was the thing.
I mean, people still do. I mean,
hey, I used to get off work. I was in the army.
In your liberal little world, they probably do in a little small pocket of San Francisco.
I'm liberal, and I still say thank you to every soldier I meet.
Yeah, but that's you. So, like, you know what I mean. Most Americans don't even like America, so we won't go.
Are you saying most Americans?
Hey, you know what, guys? But you know what, guys? I'll get you a ring so you guys can fight together about this.
Bro, that's never gonna end, bro.
I'll
Dude,
pay,
you would break the bell if you try to tell it to stop. Like,
bro, I will pay the ticket. I will pay the ticket. I will get.
Because he knows I'm right, yo. Look at all these people online. I'm like, guy, I hate this place. This place is so racist. I just want to go to another country. I hate it. Look at the UK. They got benefits. I hear that shit all the time. I'm sick of it. Anyway, that's what ended up happening with Call of Duty. It was released at the right time, and then when people actually tried Call of Duty, they did something bigger than Halo. Halo gave you sticky aim that made you feel like you were actually doing it. Call of Duty just straight up aimed at your enemy when you put your shit down. You aim down sights. So it made people feel like they were doing something they really weren't. It was just reflexes. So it was very easy.
You know what, man? I'll be honest with you. I'm done. I'm good. All right, peace.
Later, bro. Yeah, the Twitch shooter aspect of it, I think was the most addictive part, because the thing about Halo is you have to kind of wait to build up a certain amount of shots before you get the kill. With Call of Duty,
you have to line your shots up and you have to, what do you call it again? Lead your shots.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it did stick, but it wasn't like anything. And I don't know what the hell that was all about. I thought I made a pretty compelling case. Okay.
I don't know. But you can go ahead.
But I'm going to continue to say what I'm going to say. That was it, though.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because there was no other game that really, and it was multi-platform too. That's another thing. It was multi-platform. You had to buy an Xbox, and you had to play Xbox. You know, it was Xbox Live to make that shit work on top of it. You know what I mean? So that's what made it, and it just became a tradition. I had a friend, he consistently bought it over and over for a decade. Every year he would buy the limited edition with the remote control
Yep.
car and shit like that.
I
He
have a friend
every
just like that.
year,
Yep.
and he would
Why
complain
is
about it. He was like, I don't even like this shit. This doesn't even work. Oh, look how glitchy it is. Look how laggy it is. All this other stuff. And then people were saying that Xbox had dedicated servers. She didn't, but we
Yeah,
digress.
that was the big thing back in the 360 era. They're like, oh yeah,
There was
that's
like
why
the reason why there
PSN
was like
that's why PSN sucks, bro. Like
they were like, yeah, you pay for free, but you get what you pay for because
yeah,
I pay
you
for
don't
Xbox
pay for it
Live
like we do.
for dedicated servers.
And then
I was like,
they found out that it's not dedicated servers, it's peer to peer.
well, we do. It is a little better though. It is a little better. I'm like, oh, okay. All right. Is it? Okay.
Yo,
God, they look so stupid in the end. Like,
yo, guys. I like I said, man. I wanted to kind of start wrapping this up, man. I didn't want to be on here too late. About the whole. Yeah, I know. I wanted that.
I wanted that.
No, but about the whole, topic of gameplay and graphics or whatever, right? Is there anything else you guys wanted to say about that, man, before I start closing all this shit out?
Or you talk about like Horizon?
Well, Horizon, PlayStation games in general.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing, right, was about, like, I mean, just to kind of break it down, I guess, a little bit, right? The whole premise was that a lot of Sony's games, right, they don't get a lot of the credit for the in-depth mechanics that they have in their gameplay elements. You know what I mean? They only seem to get credit for, them being beautiful games or them, I won't say credit, but people call them walking simulators and all this other type of shit.
Like to add to that, sorry, The Last of Us 2 is the greatest example of that. Because the thing is that like there's a lot of, even when you have games like Red Dead Redemption, which do a great job of exploring and using weapons and in whichever way you will, The Last of Us does it in a way which makes you feel like a complete and total badass. Like it's one step short of stealth in a way, like true stealth, because of the fact that like you when you go prone, the actual way that you go through the bushes and things like that, it's far more realistic than most other games. Like when dogs sniff you out, pretty much. I mean, you don't get that type of pressure in most stealth games. But yet in this game, you can choose. You have to morally, literally, the way that they put you into the experiences, that you have to morally figure out whether you want to take this dog out or run away from it or do something. Like the gameplay is like that deep. You have to like
that dog gonna get shanked every fucking time, yo. Ain't nobody trying to get ate the fuck up by no damn dog.
Yeah, but the thing is,
I ain't gonna sit there and die for the.
Yeah, but didn't you notice the moral weight that you felt, the way they set it up? That a dog was coming at you. And
I didn't have to think about it. Like if a dog's coming at me, like why is that? Like okay, this is what I don't understand about certain people. I don't understand it. Why do people carry dogs' lives higher than humans?
Like,
no. It's like, not that.
But listen, if a human was coming after you, you don't think, damn, does this person have a family? Oh wow, like what would his wife say? What? Like, oh, I don't want to kill him. No, you just kill him, motherfucker. You stab him. That's what you like. You get that nigga out of there.
I mean, technically, you're correct in that aspect. If
the dog, you look like, oh my god, a dog. No, that dog. What's the difference between a dog and a fucking bear then? If that's the case.
No, and that's indicative of a societal issue when you're talking about the fact that when you're talking about life imitating art. Or art imitating a situation that could happen in life, and a human choosing their own life over another thing, that could be a problem. But again, I was talking about in today's world, there is a moral weight behind it, and the fact of the matter is that, especially in the way that you take out the dog, you can choose any way to deal with the situation. You can get away from the dog, try to figure out a way to get out of its path, essentially. You can kill it if you want to.
The way that the AI works in that game, they will always find you. So like you would have to find a way to kill a dog. That's according to Naughty Dog. The way that it is they will have like a search animation as if they can't see you, but they'll just keep making the AI get closer and closer to you. So you're going to have to contend with the dog in general, which means that you're going to have to kill it. So the decision that Naughty Dog presented to you was a first one. There is no safe way.
No, you can.
Hold on, wait. Metal Gear Solid.
Metal Gear
Solid. Yeah, you can throw objects, and he will walk. Yes, and he will walk away. The only way that you can get away from that shit, right, is you throw an object and you go into the area where
and then you escape.
You close it, and then that's it.
Yeah, but, and then you escape. You have to get away.
But again, that's not a moral. That's not a moral situation. So like, all right, so Metal Gear Solid did it way better because what you could do is you can have like a piss rag from a wolf and throw that shit, and they will never bother you, or food or anything of that nature. So they actually gave you a real choice. Not you escape an area, you can't go back to it, but neither can the dog follow you. You know what I'm saying? So like, it was just done better. That's why I'm not impressed with it. But and that was Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3
so you're
and
saying,
1.
So essentially you're concurring with people that even with certain aspects of a game like Last of Us, that maybe isn't moving the needle at all, even still.
In terms of the multiplayer,
no, not multiplayer, but Last of Us 2.
I mean, I don't know. I kind of don't.
Because now we're going back to the criticism in and of itself here now.
But Sony is such a big conglomerate of
developers,
but like it's hard to say that for everybody. But I will say, in terms of taking them seriously, you know how I feel about The Last of Us. So to me, personally,
that's kind of why I didn't want to get too much into it, man. Because I know The Last of Us Part 2 is a freaking, that could go left field too, man.
No, but I'm keeping it from going left field. So like the thing about it, without just talking about the story, just straight gameplay mechanics, there was an actual story in that story. There was actual tweets that was like, "Yo, The Last of Us Part 2 is worse than Resident Evil 4 remake," and that's what people were saying. There's a couple of people that were saying that on Twitter. And it's hard to define that because it's like, is it because you like Japanese flavor? Or, you know what I mean? They were like,
they're very different.
They were like, their gameplay is better in Resident Evil 4. It was just like, they have a lot of technicalities. And it's like, I don't know. That's what makes it hard. They're different. But to me personally, I don't feel like the interaction, like I feel like it looks realistic. You know what I'm saying? But I don't feel like it presents a lot of scenarios for you.
Have these people actually watched like some of the best like gamers online play The Last of Us 2?
The same thing could happen. The same thing could be said about Breath of the Wild. Anybody that likes, but hear me out. But hear me out. When people talk about combat in Breath of the Wild, all the stuff that you can do, you're engineering ways to do it. You know what I'm saying? It's not putting you in scenarios where you have to think about how do I want to do it. You're literally making like almost like a playground of how you want to do it. So like somebody's like, oh, what you could do is you can burn this glass or grass, and then you can use your little glider, and it can throw you up, and then you can use your arrows. It's like, for what though? There's no practical reason because the AI doesn't present a difficulty for you to use all that in general. And for The Last of Us, it's like, yeah, I could swing around this rope and I could tackle this one person, and I could throw a smoke bomb and I could roll over there. And it's like, do you really need to do all of that? To be honest with you, you could just honestly just throw a bomb and blow 4 of them up and then call it a day.
I think you're selling it short, dude. Breath of the Wild, to be specific, because of the fact that you might not have all of the ammunition and things that, well, not ammunition, but weapons and things that you need for certain types of combat with certain types of characters. So the game actually gives you alternative ways that you can creatively figure out how to use physics to your advantage.
No, but the AI doesn't present enough of a threat for you to do that. I've sat there and I saw people try to plead the case of Breath of the Wild where they would sit bombs like a trail, right? and they would make a trail of bombs leading to an enemy, and then run to the other side back again, and then backflip off of the fucking of a platform while that ancient machine is shooting the laser, blowing up the first bomb. And it's like
behavior.
But that's you're creating your own scenario. That the AI that's not.
This is what I would say, man, because like I said earlier, you know, it's not like these games are perfect, you know what I mean? And it's not like they can't take any criticism and improvement and improve on certain aspects of the gameplay, you know what I mean? Maybe a valid criticism is that some of these games could work on the AI, like you're saying, right? But I also think, like what Stage Block is saying, man, the mechanic is still in the game, and it gives you the freedom to be able to do certain things and give you kind of like freedom to interact with the situation in different ways, you know, which in itself is cool. You know what I'm saying? I think that's a cool thing that you could do, and it's available to you, you know. But I think what you're saying is valid as well. You know what I'm saying? Maybe that is a valid criticism that some of these games can have. You know, maybe they could revamp that type of shit.
But that's the thing. You can look at it my way, or you can look at it as, okay, so if you have to make your own sandbox fun for
it's not that you have
let me finish. If you can make your own sandbox fun, right? And people are finding all these unique ways of doing it. Not many people do that with The Last of Us either, creating these scenarios where you swing around the rope and you stab this one person and you lay on your back, you throw a sugar bomb and roll over here. It's weird that people will not explore those options. I mean majority, not stragglers, you know what I mean? Majority.
Yeah, most people won't. They'll take the straightforward approach.
But that's weird though, because it's like people don't take PlayStation games seriously.
Critical thinking.
No, people don't take the PlayStation games seriously enough to even go past the storyline. And then like most people will play the storyline and close the book, and they're like, I'm done.
Yeah, but most people don't know that you can do all the things you can.
It doesn't. But again, the same thing that is like Zelda though.
No,
Zelda
Breath of the Wild is a much deeper game.
Listen. Would you just listen for a second, please? Would you just listen for a second? Just a second.
I don't think he's
trying. Hold on, Ken. I'm not criticizing it at all. What I'm saying is that people are literally finding different ways. They're making themselves find different ways to use the mechanics. And that's what's giving you these new videos every once in a while, right? They're not doing that with Horizon. Breath of the Wild. Not Breath of the Wild. The Last of Us. There's a lot of things that you can do in The Last of Us, but nobody cares.
Dude, nobody.
Hold on a second.
Once more, you keep talking about one person. I'm talking about the majority of people. Majority of people. And I am. Hold on, Ken.
Right.
Majority of people. I'm not talking about one person that exploits multiple games, and I'm not discrediting you. I'm saying that people they don't take Sony's games seriously. That's all I'm saying.
You're probably right.
And I'm trying to get to the crux of it. I don't know why that is. You know how long it was for somebody to realize the beauty of Horizon Forbidden West Ocean? It was in December of last year, man. Nobody gave a fuck about the ocean until I posted that shit. And it got 1.3 million views.
Yeah.
Nobody even thought about looking at that. I'm just saying that the appreciation in general.
Yeah, but the thing is,
why do you keep saying but? I'm agreeing with you.
I literally showed you. But the thing is, you're making an argument to talk about appreciation. I made that very same argument, and then you still went against it.
When did I go against this?
Hold on a second, man. That's why I wanted to say what I wanted to say, man. Because stage block, it's not that he's not disagreeing with you.
It's not about agreeing or disagreeing with me. I was making the case for how people overlook certain aspects of the game.
That's exactly
what he brought Metal Gear Solid into it. When I was never putting it against Metal Gear Solid.
Well, he has his.
I'm saying as a side note, I literally gave two different versions of an argument. The first version was I don't particularly think that the mechanics were that deep because I found a game that was deeper than The Last of Us. And you said I was selling it short, but I said also people can sit there and say about Breath of the Wild and all of this stuff, and it wasn't needed. but they have fun exploring that game. I never disagree with you.
No,
Yeah,
it's not about. It's not about disagreeing. It's about the
But
fact
it is about disagreeing.
no,
You're
it's about
arguing. You're
adding-
arguing
no,
the fact that I'm
no,
agreeing with you with.
It's
I'm
about
literally
adding
agreeing.
to-
But I'm like, but I'm agreeing with you, and you're saying that
Yo,
I'm not.
No.
let me say
I'm
something.
the
Let me
point
say something.
itself agrees with.
Hold on
the
a second. Hold on a
detractors
second. Yo,
to
hold
agree.
on, man. It's
Yeah.
starting to get a little out of hand. No, you guys are saying the same shit, like pretty much. That's really what it is,
Literally.
and it's like, yeah, like you guys are saying the same thing. Like people are not
And
exploring
you're
some of
stuck
these
on,
aspects.
and you're stuck on. And you're stuck
And
on something like I said like 30 minutes ago, and I really wasn't
No,
disagreeing
I
with
was
you.
not talking about people not exploring the game. That was his point.
But you were so stuck on what I said about The Last of Us because you like the game.
No,
Again,
no. It's not about me liking.
Is
the
it? Wait,
game.
hold on.
I was
Is it?
trying
Did you
to
play
make
Metal
the
Gear? Hold on.
point
Wait.
you were
Did
making
you
about
play? Did you? Hold on.
detractors.
Wait. Did you play Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so you should already know that the mechanics in The Last of Us Part 2 are already in those games.
Mm-hmm.
What's the
To
argument?
to some
You got
degree.
the dogs, you got the hiding, you got the fucking laying on your back. They're all in there.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? What do you mean?
No. But the point that we were making.
What is The Last of Us Part 2 doing
Hold
more
on.
than the Metal Gear?
Can we
What
go
is the
back
last?
to
No,
the
answer.
actual
No,
point?
answer my question.
No, hold
What
on.
is?
Can
Well,
we-
no, answer the
hold
question.
on.
Answer
Hold
the
on.
question. What is The Last of Us
Hold
doing
on.
more
Hold-
than
It's not
Metal Gear
about
Solid?
what it does.
No,
better
answer the
or better.
question. What is it doing better? What is it doing better? That's all I'm asking you.
God, nobody brought up Metal Gear
I
Solid.
know, but you can't. You're not answering the question. I'm asking you a very different question for a different scenario. So I'm asking you, what is it doing more than Metal Gear Solid? That's all I want to know.
You are literally making the very
No,
point.
can you just
Can you
answer
right
the
now.
can you just
We were
answer the
literally
question?
talking about Ubisoft.
Can you just Sage, can you just answer the question?
Like right,
Sage,
you can't even see you're proving my point.
Sage, can you just answer the question? What is it doing better than Metal Gear
It's
Solid?
not about it doing it better.
I don't understand. You see how he just goes around in circles and he don't answer the question? Like
It's
I'm just
because
literally
I
asking
don't-
you a question.
It's
I'm
because-
asking you a question. That means that you don't have an answer.
No,
that's all
it's
it means.
not what it means.
No, it just means we could digress because I'm not going to be doing this all day.
No, it's not.
Let's
what it
just
means. You guys
agree.
had a
Let's just
premise.
agree to just let's just hold on, Ken. Let's just agree to disagree. That's it.
Fine, but I'm saying
That's it. There's no bite. There's no
hold on,
bite. There's no bite. Just leave it alone.
Ken,
Just leave it alone, Sage.
Ken,
Just leave it
hear me
alone.
out. You guys had a premise about the games not getting the credit they deserve, especially in certain aspects, with certain Sony games. Even if they do certain things that other games do, there might be some sort of charm about it or something special that they do about it. And the point I was making on my own was that Last of Us just so had its own charm to the way that they dealt with stealth.
And he still didn't answer my question. Anyway,
no, it's not.
Ken, Ken. Either mute. I will just mute you because I'm just host. As
Look,
well.
man,
I'm not going to go in circles with this.
Yeah, this is all I'm gonna say about this, man, because I don't, want this shit to keep going back and forth, man. Because you guys are pretty much saying the same shit, man. You know what I'm saying?
Well, Ken. Here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. I played a lot of games, right? And God of War there isn't anything like God of War, especially these new ones. Like nothing. They're similar to certain things, but they're not the same. The same thing with Horizon. Horizon, you can't find a game that functions just like Horizon. We talked about this. The same thing with Ghost of Tsushima. You can't find a game like Ghost of Tsushima.
There's not even anything similar.
There's nothing similar to those three games specifically, right? There's nothing similar to those three games specifically. But people continuously say that those games are one and done and they don't do anything new for whatever reason. Now, that's some of the other studios for Sony, and that's very much true. The same thing with Media Molecule. There is no game that functions like Media Molecule's games or Gran Turismo, because they're the pioneers to it, for Polyphony Digital, or most of the things. The thing is, when it comes to Naughty Dog games, gameplay-wise, they are very similar to other games. The only thing that they do differently is the charm that you speak of. which is the reason why it's very difficult to speak on their games because no one's doing cinematics like Naughty Dog. But when it comes to the actual gameplay, this is why you weren't able to answer my question. Metal Gear Solid has all of the mechanics that they have in The Last of Us Part 2.
It?
They have it. No, no one said it. But that's what Kim was saying. You're saying that's what Kim was saying.
Oh
you're saying
God.
that you're
Dude,
saying that I'm fighting.
Literally saying
where's that mute button? Hold on. Where's the mute button? I'm not doing it. I'm gonna say this, right? I never disagree with you. I said I didn't really want to talk about The Last of Us in this particular case, only due to the fact that how I feel personally and can concur. He said, I want to go down this rabbit hole. But I also presented two cases. You're saying that, people are not appreciating The Last of Us. When The Last of Us by nature is a cinematic game. That's the very thing that people accuse Sony of just being. That's the problem. They're accusing it to be a cinematic game. That's one of the reasons why they're accusing it, because of Naughty Dog. Naughty Dog started the trend of cinematic games that Sony's been doing. They weren't doing that before. Sony saw that was successful. Naughty Dog saw that was successful, and that's the template that they went to.
And you know what, man? I think what's going on here, man, is that you're taking Josh's like personal take on Metal Gear Solid, doing what it does and even potentially doing it better than what Naughty Dog does as an attack or as a
it's
thing.
It's not an attack.
No. Hold on. No. Listen. Or
earlier.
Hold on a second, Stage Block, man. Or as a way to diminish what Naughty Dog has done. That's not what he's doing. He's not telling you that what Naughty Dog is doing is worse, or that your opinion or take on it. It's not implementation of it. That's not the point.
So then, what is the actual point that was gathered from what was said in general?
He has his own take on The Last of Us, right? That's why I did not want to go this road of The Last of Us, because I know how he really feels about it. When I hear what you're saying about The Last, I agree with you personally. I think it does some cool shit with their gameplay, right? Now I can't discredit what he's saying as well, because maybe
I'm not.
Yeah.
You would learn a lot if you just would listen. You know what I mean? And stop cutting people off. Like that would really help.
No, but it's gotten annoying to the point where
but the reason why it's annoying is because you refuse to listen to what other people are saying. They'll complete their sentences.
Anyway,
of all the people to talk about cutting people off, then Jesus. Okay.
Well, I'm a co-host to this, so that's why.
How about
if you make your own if you make your own space, then I can't say anything how you run it.
How about we do this?
Fine.
This is why I didn't want to go down the Last of Us thing, man. I agree with you. Josh has his own take on it. Whatever, right? I think we should just agree to disagree, whatever the fuck. If you want to take,
no, that's fine.
If you want to take The Last of Us out of it, the argument still stands.
Yeah, I'm going to. That I didn't know that was such a sensitive spot.
Yeah, it's cool. No problem, man.
It's not sensitive. It's not sensitive. Well, every time we have a space, I always mention about how my dislike for Naughty Dog in general, because I don't think that they advance gameplay. The cinematic portions, I don't even think they advance gameplay going all the way back to Crash Bandicoot. There were better platformers back then than Crash Bandicoot. What they do is they take a simple premise, and they polish the hell out of it. They've been doing that for decades. They're very good at removing all of the fluff that would make their games loose. You know what I mean? And they zero in on the core mechanics. That's how they don't miss, because they're not doing too much. They're not putting too much on the table.
I will say this,
on their plate.
I will say this, man. And this is my take on Naughty Dog's games, man. And I love, some of their older shit, man. Whatever, yeah. Right? I think Naughty Dog is one of the outliers when it comes to Sony's portfolio, when it comes to the actual gameplay mechanics. You know what I'm saying? See, I think Naughty Dog's games are more simple than a lot of Sony's other games, like say Horizon or God of War or whatever the case, Returnal. Like they're more simple.
All of them, really.
Yeah, they're more simple games, and that's not a bad thing. You know what I'm saying? Because they do well what they do well. You know, they polish the fuck out of them, man, and they look great. They play great. You know what I'm saying? It's not that they're not great games. You know, when it comes to the gameplay mechanics, they tend to be very simple, and that's nothing. There's nothing bad about it, you know, because a lot of other games do the same shit that Naughty Dog's games do. You know,
You got less ability to do stuff between a God and Joe from Montana too, though. Mm-hmm. You were the regular dude. He ain't that special.
Yeah, but I think the thing that makes Naughty Dog special is that their games are what I always tend to use the term a sum of its parts. They take the best parts from certain aspects and then they add it into this whole amalgamation of basically the perfect storm of, well, not the best, of course. It took from Resident Evil 4 for Uncharted, you know, a little bit from Kill Switch, just like Gears of War did. They both took from Kill Switch, but when they made Uncharted, you know, like, and then they added that little cinematic flair that Sony was known for doing even before them, you know, coming out into their own, and they pretty much just hit, you know, they struck, you know, it was just like lightning, you know, that you know, that miraculous lightning strike that caught, you know.
So let me ask you this stage, right?
Yeah.
When you think about Uncharted specifically, right? The first thing you think about is Gears of War, because you have the cover system, you have the, you know, the.
Nah, you can only move in a straight line.
Well, Uncharted was created because Sony knew Gears of War was being made and Xbox was making it exclusive. So they both learned from.
They needed something because basically, Uncharted is the yin and Gears of War is the yang.
Yeah.
Everything that they're the same coin too. Everything that Uncharted is, Gears of War isn't, and vice versa. Like, Uncharted is all about the colors. You know what I'm saying? Gears of War is not about the colors.
Yeah.
You know,
Uncharted is about verticality. Gears of War is about horizontal activity.
Right. They're like they're opposites of each other, but they're the same thing. But that's what you would think. That's the closest thing that you would think. And it's usually just one specific game. Like, if you look at Crash Bandicoot, right, you'll probably think of Mario immediately. You know, there's nothing else. When you look at Jak and Daxter, you think of Banjo-Kazooie. You know, you know, and when the newer ones came out, you just straight up thought of Grand Theft Auto because they just ripped that shit. You know what I mean? All together. And again, I had the Daxter, what do you call it? The Daxter avatar for, like, I think it was somewhere around like 16 years, from 2007 to 2020, I believe. I had that Jak and Daxter thing because that was one of my favorite games of all time.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that I like when people talk about Naughty Dog. I hated Uncharted because anything that I liked about Jak and Daxter, they removed. I like the open world, I like the freedom, and it's Uncharted was literally just the most linear shit ever. You know what I'm saying?
It's supposed to be, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what it was supposed to be. I mean, but that doesn't mean I don't like it. There's many food. There's a lot of food I don't like. There's a lot of things I don't like personally. You know what I mean? That doesn't mean that it's bad. Like what Ken was saying, it's straight up. That's what they set out to do. They set out to make the opposite of Gears of War so it could stand out, essentially, and they did it. And with The Last of Us was more of the more unique things that they've done. In general. Because normally I would say that they're not that unique, Naughty Dog. And what Ken said, you know, their mechanics are simple. It just is. That's the lore to it. So you can jump in, watch the cinematics, play a little bit. It doesn't have a lot of hang-ups for you to get lost in. And that's not a dig to it.
That's not a bad thing, you know what I'm saying? Because I love the Naughty Dog games, man. Look. And Josh doesn't like, you know, a lot of the shit that they did, you know, with Uncharted. I fucking love it, yo. That shit is one of my favorite games of all time, man. But I can't say that, you know, their games have like all of these crazy mechanics that you don't see in other places. You know what I mean? The mechanics are simple by nature, and it's supposed to be that way, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Because it is what it is. That's what it was set out to do, and they did well what they did with it. You know what I'm saying? So it gets credit for what the fuck it does. You know what I'm saying? And what it does well.
And that's a cinematic flair. That's exactly what it gets credit for. As a matter of fact, Naughty Dog is what put Sony on the map. That's what made people take PlayStation seriously. Is Naughty Dog. Sony made a whole bunch of shit, and no one took them seriously. And it took a very simple story and a very simple concept for people to finally be like, oh, this is a good game. I like the cinematics. I like being able to watch this. It's almost like a movie. Now it's a stigma.
That's the selling it short thing, man. Like nobody was doing it like them at the time, dude. And even
I know that's the reason why everybody copied the formula. You're right, but I'm talking about gameplay, not flair.
Yeah, they gave Crystal Dynamics the formula that they.
I know, but that's why I said when I said you weren't here for this, but that's why I said style over substance. This is the style that Sony had, and it doesn't have a lot of substance. It has a lot of fucking style. But
because I honestly, man, I think Naughty Dog. Okay, so this is my other kind of take on them, right? I think Naughty Dog gets a lot more credit than what they actually do in their games. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's been the case for a long time. Like even way back in the PS3, man, with Uncharted and the Last of Us and stuff like that, man. Like if you really break down like the actual gameplay mechanics, they're simple. You know, Uncharted's gameplay mechanics are simple. Same thing as The Last of Us. You know what I mean? But they got a lot of credit for, being like one of the first people there to do that shit the way that they did it. You know what I'm saying? And it's cool. Yeah. I have a problem what I have a problem with is when you get games like God of War or games like Horizon and stuff like that don't get that same level of credit, because you can't say that these games get the same level of credit. They don't, and they do a lot more. They do way more. I mean, granted, the games are different. The games are different. The games are different. Granted,
no, it's not that. It's not that. It's okay. Go on. Sorry.
I'm just saying, like the games are different, and I'm not gonna try to like make a apples for apples comparison. You know what I'm saying, between like both different types of games, man. But when you talk about like gameplay functionality, like the actual function mechanics of a gameplay of the game, right? God of War and games like Horizon do more. They do a lot more. I mean, there's no like refuting the amount of mechanics that they have in their games, over Naughty Dog's games. Now, is that
yeah, of course.
Yeah, is that a bad thing? No, it's not. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But Naughty Dog got a lot more credit for, the shit that they did, even though their gameplay elements are not as intricate as some of their Sony's other games. You know what I'm saying?
Yo, Ghost got an 84, and that shit on everything.
Wait, what?
Ghost of Tsushima only got like an 84 Metacritic, and like fucking something like Assassin's Creed Valhalla got like a 89. You fucking kidding me?
Well, see, that's why I said that I think Naughty Dog is one of the outliers because they do like, it's hard to say that, say what you say about it, because it's like the way their games are, they're so fucking good. And it's not saying that they're not good. It's just that when you talk about, in the context of this conversation, right, about gameplay mechanics, they're on their side, their gameplay mechanics are a lot more simple than Sony's other games,
Like, I think that the most truthful review I've seen is from somebody I least expected to hear a review from. Solid Rev gave probably the best review for somebody who is a critic. I mean, a real critic of the story of The Last of Us 2. Like, he straight up literally broke it down and like proved how, like, even though he has a bias to the story, the whole sum of its parts package still couldn't be brought down. Like he said that you have to, because he's a stickler for gameplay, shooter gameplay, and so like watch his review after this. He talks about like how great the gameplay is, even though he fucking hated the story, and so he's,
I watched his review when the game came out.
Yeah. Like, and he literally
But
broke it
here's the
down.
thing. I do think that on a very deep level, you have a bias, and this is just confirmation bias. I don't think that you could take yourself out of this, and just look at this.
I liked freaking what's his name's review too, even though he didn't like the game.
No, I mean in general, because we have many. I had many different spaces with you, and you get real passionate when it comes to The Last of Us.
Well, because I think that also because of the fact that it gets bashed a lot, I'm gonna be the one to ask.
Yeah, but it gets bashed not because of its gameplay. It gets bashed because of the story decisions that they've made. This has nothing to do.
And we all have the edge, just like you.
Yeah, but we're not talking about the
what
the gameplay. I mean, we're not talking about the story. We're talking about gameplay.
You brought up Metal Gear Solid before, though.
But because again, Red probably haven't played Metal Gear Solid.
No, but it has nothing to do with it. That has nothing.
But I can't understand that if you played Metal Gear Solid before, I don't understand how you can walk away with it. Though that's the thing.
He literally gave the game a failing score for its story and its score, but he said the thing that propped it up was literally the gameplay.
I can't see how you played the Metal Gear Solid games and walk away with that with that mentality. God, and that's fine. I get it. I don't understand how you can walk away with it knowing what you know. And maybe like I said, it is what it is. But
it is possible for two different people. I said it is possible for two different people to have two different takes on, the same thing.
Yes. And I completely understand it and open to that prospect. That I was just saying that very point itself is no different than the Ubisoft criticism that I was talking about before.
No, it's not. That's not the same thing at all.
You just can't see it.
Like remotely. So because that's diminishing Ubisoft games for what they are doing, and it diminishes the game itself. That's like literally saying, like I said before, the analog analogy. Just because you have you push up on the analog stick, they're saying that I'm not being reductive at all. I'm really talking about the mechanics themselves. Like I said, you have more avenues in Metal Gear Solid. You just do. You have a lot more choice in Metal Gear Solid instead of artificial choices where you can revisit areas in Metal Gear Solid. Whereas in The Last of Us, when you close out an area, that's it because of story reasons. I can go all the way back. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I can knock on doors and get the AI to actually function. I can shoot someone's. I can hold on. I can shoot someone's hand and knock the gun out of it. If I die or if I get away, I will look at the enemy heal themselves, bandage their legs or arms, and they'll never be able to grab a gun anymore. Like shit like that was done on the PS2. It's hard for me to look at a game that is so surface level to me when they don't have those features, and I've already played those features. They're similar in nature. You know what I'm saying? So if I'm going to play something, I'm expecting all of those features, especially since I played it in 2005 versus 2020. I'm expecting all of those features and more. You know what I mean? And it is not there. You don't get to see the enemy bandage their legs or they throw up because they ate something that you left behind, or you can throw a porno magazine to distract them, or you can lock them in a closet or lock them in a fucking locker or whatever the case is, or you can take their outfits. None of that fucking exists in that game. Some of it is mechanics special to Metal Gear Solid, but if we're going to talk about stealth game to stealth game,
I mean, of course, some things were slightly
The Last of Us.
Yeah,
the
but
Last
some
of Us
things were
is
slightly exaggerated, including distractions.
No, I know, but I'm saying if you're going to go stealth for stealth, then Metal Gear Solid is a superior game.
Wasn't even given credit against Splinter Cell.
Honestly, man, I don't even think that The Last of Us is specifically like a stealth. I mean, I know you didn't say that, but I think it's kind of hard to make a comparison between those two because
it's a game genre though. You know what I mean? So it's like, because espionage is like, what is that for a game? But if I look at you got stealth elements in there. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, of course.
And to me, it's like, because they play so heavily into stealth where you have to hide or else you're dead. You know what I'm saying? Like you have stealth elements in Horizon, but you're not dead if you get spotted. In this game, if you get spotted, sometimes you are like extra fucking dead. And you have to do it.
I think in The Last of Us, man, they give you almost just as many options to go active as it is passive. You know what I'm saying?
But both are not that many options, though. It's just enough.
I agree with that. I mean, I don't think that it has. I think that people think that it has more than what it does. But I think The Last of Us is a very like highly specialized game with the type of experience that they're trying to give people. You know what I'm saying? And I keep saying this, man. It's not to take away from it, but
it's story based. It just is. That's what Naughty Dog went after. It's a story based game. Period.
Well, a lot of the games are story based games.
I know, but this is heavily story based games. I know, but that's because of Naughty Dog. Naughty Dog was set that trend because they weren't doing that before.
It was God of War that started that trend.
Well, see,
Metal Gear. Actually, it was Final Fantasy VII and.
No, we're not. We're talking about. Okay, so I'll give you Metal Gear Solid because Metal Gear Solid is.
Metal Gear Solid.
Metal Gear. Yeah. Well, Final Fantasy VII, no, because that's an RPG, and then they have cinematic flair, but it's not like. But here's the thing: they have. This is what Naughty Dog popularized. Popular. They made popular. What do you call it? Set pieces. They made that super fucking popular. They refined it to the point where almost every game wanted to do the set piece thing, which made the game cinematic.
Yeah.
The Metal Gear Solid is the closest thing that you will get to that. In terms of a cinematic thing where you're watching the game. But like I said before, it's polished. What Naughty Dog would do is they would take an existing premise and they will polish the fuck out of it. That's what they do. And I've always said this about Naughty Dog. And I was okay with. I'm okay with that. I just didn't like the reductive format they were going into, where they went backwards and started making the games even more simple. And I was just like, I can't.
Is it because they're making the game simpler, or because they're trying to create an experience?
It's because they're making the game simpler. Is my problem.
Because there's plenty of people who've played Uncharted on the hardest difficulty, and
you still have a certain amount of mechanics. You're not going to get away with that. It's still a certain amount of mechanics. It's just I'm just saying not that many. It's not that many mechanics.
Try to play the game on crushing, and they still get a challenge out of it.
Yeah, but that's challenge in terms of there's challenge and there's simplicity. They're different.
Of course, but I'm saying that the AI.
I'm looking for
harder
complexity.
To kill.
But I'm looking for complexity, not just being more difficult to kill.
When you say complexity, mechanics. What do you mean? When you say complexity?
I want more mechanics.
More mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you want it to be? You really want it to be like true, like tactical.
Yes.
There you go. So that's why you brought up Metal Gear. Okay, that's what it is. Okay.
I feel like that's the direction that I would have liked them to take if it was more. You really had an option in the matter, but they can't do that because the game is story based, and you can't veer too far off of the story, so you're kind of stuck. With limited options.
That's not to reduce what they did, or what they have.
That's what they did. That's what they designed because they chose story. They prioritized story over the gameplay.
Yes,
because I'll tell you, man. Like, me and Josh have gotten into a lot of debates about this shit, man. I think not The Last of Us, Uncharted 4. I think that game is such a spectacular game because of how they expanded on their core mechanics. Being able to whatever, freaking jump off of a ledge and then use your rope and swing around and drop down and hit an enemy and then climb up a wall.
Yeah,
and then pull a guy off, you know what I'm saying, and then jump into a bunch of patch of take stealth kill 3 guys, and you know what I'm saying, I but I can also acknowledge that the mechanics themselves are they have their own sense of complexity, but when it comparing it to say like another game like God of War, I keep bringing up, that has a lot more like gameplay mechanics in the game. Like, you know, it tends simple. You know what I'm saying?
But
that's the thing. They cannot be compared. That's the
but
thing.
we
And
only
this is where
comparing.
I try to tell a
We're only
lot of Xbox
comparing.
gamers. This is what I try to tell a lot of Xbox gamers. When you're talking about certain specific the things that make these games similar, yes, they are linear games. Generally, they tend not to be so open unless you're talking about like Ghost of Tsushima or Horizon Zero Dawn. And even then, you're still gonna try and break it down somehow. It's not an RPG, like they're still gonna find a way, So the thing is that like with like on like God of War versus Devil May Cry. Back in the day, God of War was never given credit as a proper hardcore hack and slash because of the fact that you had games that were deeper, like Devil May Cry, for instance. And people would talk about how, especially if you hated Sony and stuff like that, but well, not hated Sony because it was exclusive back then. But like a lot of detractors would use, Devil May Cry as a example of the combo system and the creativity meter and stuff like that you can, and that God of War had nothing near to, God of War in and of itself chose style over substance to agree in its own way, but it focused more on an experience, and more so than Devil May Cry did.
Well,
but I think that Sony now is going into the especially this generation, they're going into substance over style at this point in time. Or actually, they're trying to balance. They're trying to balance it.
They would never drop style.
So they still have their style to it, but it's going to take so many years for people to really take them seriously because the mindset is that Sony does cinematic experiences.
Yeah, and
that's the mindset.
Yeah, and it's like people they never cross that hurdle, man. Where it's like maybe these games actually do have a lot of great mechanics in them, and then just completely overlook it, right? But then turn around and say something like, whatever, Resident Evil 4, which is a great game in its own right, but give all of the credit to whatever that game did. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course. It's because they don't like that.
Because that's the funny thing is when you look at Devil May Cry, right? Not Devil May Cry. I'm sorry. When you look at The Last of Us, right? Part 1 or part 2, they're looking like, oh, it's realistic. And it's like,
sorry.
Well, it's like it's kind of weird that you would say, oh, it's realistic. So that means that was a big talking point too. I guess I'm not going to say too much more of this, but that was a big talking point. People were literally like, oh, well, look at what do you call it? Look at Horizon versus Elden Ring. Horizon doesn't have a good art style; it just has good technology. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Wait, haven't you noticed the same people talking about Hellblade as of late?
No, but these are not. This is the thing. These are not Xbox.
No. Oh my
That's the thing. It's weird. I can expect it from an Xbox talking about certain art styles, but when you get a PlayStation fan,
these are the same people who made fun of Hellblade itself when it was exclusive to Sony.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely a spectrum there, man, for sure. Within that conversation.
Yeah,
I did want to say this too, man, because it's not like when we're not really comparing like one game to the other per se.
Yeah,
we're more like comparing the game like in its own right for what it does. You know what I'm saying? And when you look at games like God of War or whatever, which I keep bringing up because I fucking love that game, man, and it has a lot of shit in the game that a lot of people just won't give it credit for. And Josh specifically loves Horizon, and there's a lot of shit in that game people don't give it credit for. But we're judging it in its own right.
Yeah, but I think the reason for that is because those two games have deeper mechanics per the genre.
Yeah, I would say so personally. I mean, I definitely think so.
Yeah, they by default, especially if they're taking from many other great games in the genre. Like if you look at Assassin's Creed the last one, the Valhalla that came out, or Odyssey, or even Origins, you can see bits and pieces of the tree in Horizon. Not to take away from Horizon, and maybe they were far deeper, and stuff like that. But at the same time, I love the way Horizon does it. I just do.
Well, like I said, there's a template to it for sure when it comes to like open world games, but
I like
but
the way
thing
Horizon
is, the thing is, people can accept Assassin's Creed as a serious component or a serious competitor, and they look at Sony as like, oh, this is I don't know, like a forgery.
Well, that's the point. It's because of bias. It's not really if those games were exclusive to their platform, and they would be using that game all day.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. This is not just the Xbox people. These are PlayStation guys that are doing it too, which is the weird thing. I'm like, I would have accepted if it was an Xbox that's doing that, because I can understand why. But I can't understand why a person that has a PlayStation would sit there and be like, well, I would rather play Devil May Cry over.
Oh, those are the Japanese game snobs. Like they like the older games that Sony made. Are you talking about those ones?
Yeah, I think they did. I think they just like Japanese games in general.
Yeah, the same
because they didn't buy
Devil May Cry over. Yeah.
They didn't buy the Japanese games that Sony made either. You know what I'm saying? They didn't buy The Last Guardian. They didn't buy fucking Tokyo Jungle. They didn't buy any of those fucking games. So it's like, apparently they're looking for a specific game.
Yeah,
which is one of the reasons why I had a problem with Chris Righteous. I'm like, yo, if you're going to be a Japanophile, be it. You know what I'm saying? Okay.
Wait, but didn't Chris Righteous buy the games though?
That don't mean people. There's Xbots that will buy a PlayStation. What does that mean?
I saw somebody earlier today, man.
Wait, hold on. What? We don't. There's a reason they're called Xbots, and it's because they behave in an irrational fashion.
No, anybody that is a fanboy is irrational by nature. You know what I mean? So
they're a big fan, but there's a reason why people call them Xbot.
Yeah, I know, but like that's at least they're programmed to be that way. You know what I'm saying?
No, I wouldn't expect you to. But I have conversations with like Kid Smooth from time to time where I have to like remind him of shit he said, like outrageous.
I feel like with M, he's looking for a swag bag. You know what I'm saying? And he's also operating off of nostalgia. But like I said, most of the Japanophiles are operating off of nostalgia too.
Well, of course.
So, they're like, oh, I miss the good old days where we got all these RPGs. See, the thing about a lot of Japanophiles is that they're Nintendo fanboys. And so what happens, right, is that Nintendo either the hardware prevents them from doing it, or it's the fucking, what is it? It's either the hardware that prevents them from doing it, or it's literally Nintendo just doesn't want to publish it, right? Or have anything to do with it in that particular sense. So what they'll do is they'll buy a PlayStation. They've been doing this shit since the PS1, actually. So a lot of the times you'll get a Nintendo fanboy that will buy all the Nintendo shit, right? But then they'll also buy a PlayStation so they can get their Japanese fix as well that Nintendo wouldn't support, right? So this is why they hold Sony to a higher standard. But I'm like, Japanese games don't sell that much anyway, like they used to, because there's so many different games out there that's like eating into it. So it's just a weird thing in terms of like I just, it irritates me when you get these people, to me more than an Xbox, when clearly you have a bias. It's like, oh, I like this game, and sometimes like people were talking about like Bayonetta, saying it's one of the best games they ever played, and it's flawed like a motherfucker, like technologically, and there's a lot of things there's a lot of issues to it.
Hey, yo, Josh, we're not gonna have Bayonetta slander up in here, yo.
Shut your ass up. You didn't even play it, so be quiet.
I didn't specify which one.
And I'm talking about the third one specifically.
No, Bayonetta requires a lot of skill. Like the game literally.
No, I'm talking about the third one and how like it has frame rate issues that will fuck everything up.
No, I'm busting your balls. I know that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, not even just performance either. Like there's camera issues as well, which is probably more like, I think camera camera really fucked up Gravity Rush 2. You know what I mean? If it wasn't for the camera being as bad as it was, I think it would have rated higher. So it goes to show you how important it is. But
Well,
a
that's
lot of
been a
Nintendo
problem
fans,
since. That's been a problem with that same director since freaking Devil May Cry.
yeah, but they still doesn't matter to them. You know what I mean? They're like, it's so good. So I
I
mean, I
think
don't
it's
know.
because the action is so freaking frenetic. That's the thing. Like it's hard to get control of the freaking camera. Like that's what I think.
Well, zoom it out. You know what I mean? That's the best way you
Yeah,
can do
I
it. But
mean,
if you
I think they
but the
did.
thing is, if you zoom it out for the Switch, you put more stuff on the screen and you fucking slow down the graphics. So it's like it's just a loss. All I'm saying is that they have a bias. You know what I'm saying? So like to me, yeah, Xbox will say what they say, but there's a lot of people, including people that don't even they're casuals. Casuals would rather play the same shit either. I think to a degree, Horizon and Horizon and God of War has too many mechanics that's off-putting.
Honestly,
Yeah, I
man,
mean,
yo, even when because I was even one of those people, right, that kind of didn't even give Horizon the credit that it deserves, man, because I mean, I tend to play a lot of Japanese games. I mean, that's just my thing, you know what I'm saying? It's always been that way. You know, and Horizon doesn't kind of scratch that particular itch, you know, in terms of like the type of style that they have or whatever the case, man. So like when I first played the game, like I'm not gonna lie to you, man, I was on some hating shit. I'm like, yo, what the fuck is, you know what I'm saying? Because it was so different from the first one, you know. Um, but especially after talking with Josh about this shit a lot, man, you know, you come to realize like, yo, this shit is like really different. Like they really added a lot of shit in the game, and it's you can't even with a bias, dude. You can't walk into there and just say that this shit is and reduce it so much to say that like, whatever, just pretty graphics or whatever the fuck. You know what I'm saying? Like that sounds so.
well,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah, but I think that's the problem. I think that's the problem. Their bias is clouding their judgment.
Well, that's what we're saying. But in
Yeah, so
God of
he
War,
said
people don't
even
speak
with
that.
it bias, but he was saying even with it bias. The problem is their bias is so great that it's clouding their judgment. And so the thing is, there's people who even if they don't like a game, they have a bias. Their bias is not so great that they can actually see a game and see what people like about it. Maybe there's certain mechanics that are in this game that make it legitimate compared to a sea of other games that are in a similar genre. You know, but wasn't their cup of tea because the story didn't progress the way that they wanted to. The way that they interact with the environment wasn't the way that they wanted to. Maybe the gameplay itself wasn't their cup of tea either. But the fact of the matter is that it still offers something that does something well that people agree on a consensus is actually indicative of a great game.
Yeah, and I don't know, man. I think that's kind of the situation that we're seeing with a lot of Sony's games nowadays, man. You know, because it has nothing to do right with the games and their mechanics. You know what I'm saying? Because you could break that shit down and really like, you know, like take apart the type of mechanics that they have in the game. You know what I'm saying? I mean, extensively, because it's a lot of shit, and a lot of them, you know, God of War and Horizon, all the other games that we talked about already, you know what I'm saying? But that's not the fucking problem. The problem isn't the problem isn't the mechanics of the game, you know? It's like motherfuckers don't want to take that time and explore the shit, you know?
Which is a shame. You know, I think God of War, this is the last thing I'm going to say about this, but I think God of War is actually reduced to just story. No one gives it. See, Horizon is just reduced to graphics, right? Who cares about anything else but the graphics, right? But God of War is just like, who cares about anything else but the story? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Which is fucking terrible.
Remember how I told you, like, though I didn't agree with Skillup, I still respected his review greatly. Because the thing about it is he looked at the game and he played it from the perspective of somebody who it's still his job, but he can understand why people like it. But it was not his cup of tea.
Which game?
For The Last of Us 2.
I couldn't hear you. Say again?
His name is Skillup. Skillup.
No, I know him, but what was it? What was
The Last of Us 2. Yeah, he's
Oh,
explaining why the game was not his cup of tea, but he can understand why people like it. You know.
well, you know, he would have got torn apart if he would have given it a bad. He would have given it a bad score. He would have got
No, but I can
destroyed.
understand. I can understand and empathize with all his reasons why he disliked the game. Again, when the only time I debate people on certain things is when certain things come off as disingenuous to me. Like
Well, I
he
mean,
explained things perfectly well as to why he didn't.
so I articulate myself pretty well too, but there's always somebody that says that I'm so biased. I'm like, no, like I have a good reason as to why I choose I'm very methodical as to what I say.
Yeah, but nobody can take that away from you. So, I mean,
but everybody's like, oh, he's just saying it because Ken thought I didn't like a lot of people think that I don't like a lot of Japanese shit. They think that I have a problem with Japanese shit. I'm like, not at all.
mm-hmm.
You got it completely wrong. You know what I'm saying? And then on top of it, people think that I can't criticize Horizon either. They think that I just absolutely it can never do anything wrong. I won't do it here, but I can give you at least 10 things that's wrong with the fucking game, and Ken knows. You know what I'm saying? I gave it a shot, like back when it first came out. I'm like, just give it a shot to see if it's the right thing to do. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, in terms of the gameplay.
Yeah, but not every game
try the gameplay, and that's cool, but people don't think that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you just so happen to be a PlayStation gamer who just so happens to not really like a game in general, and that's the thing. Like, a lot of people think, like, especially if you're PlayStation centric, that you should like almost every game, play almost every playing every single game.
No, you're right. You're right.
Liking every single game. Huh?
You're right. Yes, you're absolutely right. And people was like, well, like somebody was, let me see your trophies. I've been playing games before fucking trophies, way before trophies. That don't mean anything. If you see me platinum a game, the only thing that it shows you is that I like the game a lot. That's it. I don't go out and platinum games just because there's a platinum. I just don't. Yeah. If like the platinums that you see, those are some of my favorite games I've ever played. Like that Returnal, I platinum that game without even looking at the fucking list.
Oh, Josh, you need to get with the times, boomer.
About what?
You need to play and get your trophy so you could fucking post that shit on Twitter.
No, I ain't doing that. Absolutely not.
Socialize, motherfucker.
Nope. Yo, Ken, are you still doing Returnal or you're not?
Yeah. I'm about to close all this shit out, man. We've been talking for a good ass minute, yo.
It's already almost, pretty much.
But anyway, man, because I asked this shit like an hour ago. But is there anything else you guys want to say before I close all this shit out, man?
Oh yeah, the situation I was gonna say it before. With the problem with the Japanese games. And I think we were talking about before when I first came in about Sony, not investing so much in Japanese games. And I was saying before that Square Enix had already explained, I think, Sony's reasoning why, just as much as theirs, why they're afraid to invest in Japanese games. And it's because of the fact that only like a certain number of franchises have stood the test of time, and they're pretty much the only ones left. So like very few like new IP are coming out. And the thing about it is, if I made the suggestion to Chris Righteous, if Sony wanted to do these things, they need to make them like AA games. They don't need to they need to make them like games that aren't really that risky, that they can eventually, like, if they catch fire, they can put more money behind it later on.
See, Chris Righteous did this weird thing, right, with the Persona games. He was like, it sold 7 million, and he keeps saying that, right? And I was using that because I was like, I trusted his statements until somebody told me no, it didn't. And I was like, no, yes it did. I know somebody that likes Japanese shit. It turns out they were talking about the whole Persona 5 franchise, because it's many different ones. There's so many different franchises that uses that same universe. The actual Persona 5 only sold like 2 million.
Yeah.
Which is, you know what I'm saying?
and that's what he was doing. They're trying to prove his point, which was disingenuous as fuck, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And he's irrational as hell when it comes to Japanese games. We had this conversation, me and Chris Righteous. I told him, I was like, bro, they're not making it because no one's really buying it. And he used that same argument. And then even when he wasn't using that same argument, he sat there and was like, yo, I don't care. You acting like you're a part of the corporation. I don't care. Sony needs to make it work. And I'm like, oh, so this is what that is. This is like catering to 5 people, basically.
Yeah, I think Persona sold like 8.3 million, I think.
It was the series.
Persona 5, yeah.
No, not Persona 5. It was Persona 5 Universe. All of the games.
Yeah, all the games, yeah.
No, you're talking about Persona 5. Persona 5, it's a game
I'm
specifically.
talking about the whole series of 5. Like
that doesn't count, though, because they're all different genres.
Wait, what?
Persona 5, go on, Ken. Tell him that. Tell him.
Well, I mean, I was just gonna say, man, in context of the whole Japanese thing, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in general, there've only been like a few like Japanese games that kind of like really sold a lot. You know what I mean? I think in general, man, a lot of them don't sell as well as people think.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Sony knows that shit, man. That's probably why you see a lot of their games kind of going more like Western style.
Yeah.
Because Japanese shit just doesn't sell.
And the only way you get money is if you keep the games extremely fucking simple.
Oh yeah, I see.
Where you don't have a budget.
Here. It says Persona 5, Royale, Scramble, Phantom Strikers, and Dancing Star. Okay, that makes sense. Now it makes sense what you're saying. Yeah.
I couldn't believe it either when Chris Righteous told me. I was like, how the fuck did that game? I always remember that game being niche, but that's what he was doing. He was being real disingenuous. He knew that shit, but he wanted to prove his point. You know what I'm saying? He knew that's what that was. I don't play Persona. Yeah.
It's one of those balances, man, where it's like, you know, you kind of have to like come to terms with, you know, the fact that some of these shits are just not going to, but it's like, it does to progress your platform. You know what I mean? So I kind of, Chris Wright, like, yo, man, what you into Japanese games, right? But at the same time, like, it's like, yo, Sony's a fucking corporation, dude. Like, they have to fucking make money when they make their games and shit.
He said, Chris Righteous said, I don't care. I don't care. That's what he said.
I saw it.
And I'm like, that doesn't make any fucking sense. What do you mean you don't care? Like, a corporation has to care or else they won't exist.
Yeah. And I think people like Chris Righteous, man, they try to say like, oh, I'm a gamer. Yeah, I get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're all gamers. Like, but you gotta also understand, like, yo, these motherfuckers aren't gonna like start throwing money away just because. You know what I mean? Like, they're gonna invest. They have to invest into something that, you know, actually have kind of return. You know what I'm saying?
I told him this too. I said, okay, cool. I think I told this to you, Sage. I was like, let me live where you live at, rent free. Let me live in your house rent free.
Mm-hmm.
You know, since everybody's doing charity work, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let me live there rent free. And he was like, no, I can't do that. And I was trying to prove a point. These Japanese games, like, it's expensive. I mean, they're not going to make it and just be free. It's not. Yeah, I don't care. I don't care what. But that's what Chris Righteous was saying. You're thinking like a corporate guy. You should think like a consumer. And I'm like, you got to do a little bit of both, because if you don't,
yeah, you have to.
You know, they're not going to make it.
Yeah, that's the thing.
But the thing is that I think people do it when it suits them, and then where the argument falls flat, then, you know, we basically throw up that corporate flag, and then we say, oh, we're you know, shilling for the corporation. I think that's the kind of disconnect we have to our argument sometimes that we make. You know, like, I can understand why, like, even as an Assassin's Creed fan, I can understand why Ubisoft does what they do. You know, like, these companies all want to make money, but, you know, are they doing it at the expense of some of their fans? Perhaps, you know, it's just how it goes.
Same with Sony.
Yep.
I mean, it is what it is, man. Well, Nelson, man, you've been quiet for a good little minute, man. Is there anything else you wanted to say before we close this out?
Fuck Xbox.
Oh my god.
What about you? What about you, man?
Who, me?
Yeah. Anything you want to say before we close it up?
The very fact that I hope I just want to put that out there that it's going to take time for people to take Sony seriously. That's basically it. Yeah, it's because they have a reputation, and the reputation is cinematic games. That's it.
Yeah.
That's their reputation. And if you're known for one thing, if I'm known to be a shitty worker, right? And then all of a sudden I said, let me get my act together. You know what I'm saying? And then I start doing really good. It's going to take a while for people to understand that shit. If I'm known to be an emotional person, it just constantly blow up. And if I change my ways, it's going to take a while for people to really be like, oh, he really changed.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with Sony. It's going to take a while for people to really take them seriously because, like I said before, they're trying to balance the style and substance.
I the thing is that, like, bro, back in the day, Nintendo gamers wouldn't give them a chance, and now at least they've stopped for the most part. Like back in the day, you couldn't, dude. If it wasn't about the sales, it was about the Metacritic scores, and now Sony has both, and they can't say anything now at all. So it's like, today it's the Xbox gamers, but the Xbox gamers are now in a worse situation where they now have to, rely on subscription engagement. So I mean, who are they to speak? So and your argument is as well. This issue is still within the Sony camp, with certain types of gamers talking about games in certain genres that are better than the game you speak of. So I mean, yeah, you're going to have a whole bunch of people who are be playing the role of detractor, but at the same day, the whole point is to remember what makes the game special to you, and make be able to understand and make those points, as to what makes these games stand out from other games, or what makes it unique in its own special way, even though it's similar, and there's going to be a lot of people who like Far Cry games. Again, as I said, is Far Cry a bad series? No. Like, to some people it might be, but to some people they like that same loop. It doesn't matter how it drags on doing the same thing over and over again. People just like it. I like, in Assassin's Creed, like, there's people who like the grind of the new RPG system. They just do. And some people, want to pay to get to where they have to go. Do I give those people credit? No, but that's my opinion. But they do get credit for finishing the game, yes, but they took a shortcut. But that's been in Assassin's Creed games for years. So, I mean, people are going to play how they like. And that's how these games, the whole capitalist machine is working now. Play how you like, it's we can discuss the intricacies of these games and stuff like that. It's just the whole point is detracting from it's not really about the real intricacies in truth, but the detracting from what makes a game popular or special to a person. And I think that's the issue. There's just way too many of us and way too many minds. You're never going to make one person, enough people happy.
It's a cesspool out here, man.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, anyway, man, we've been in here for a good minute, man. I'm gonna go ahead and close this shit out, man. I appreciate you guys coming through, man. This was an awesome conversation, yo. It really was. I enjoyed myself, man.
No, I enjoyed myself too. Of course,